Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. Welcome to Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Today is level one, lesson 13. Just went through some challenges with my computer, pulling up the right notes, but this one is all about sun gazing, feeding the light body, and conscious creation. Okay, so I'll just begin with a wonderful little reminder, never wishing to be off topic, but spots are filling up for my Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance retreat that will be in Ojai, May 5th through the 8th. So if you have an interest in participating in that, please do reach out. And also you can find all the information for all the details of that in the description here. Okay, so um, if you're interested, time to start speaking up and making plans. Thank you very much. Okay, onward to important stuff. Hi, great to see you, Pedro. Thank you for being here. Today we're talking about sun gazing. Sun gazing and feeding the light body. And there are several things that these activities have in common. Sun gazing, doing the flying rainbow lasagna, and doing a Merkaba. They're all things that you do with your light body. When I talk about your light body, I'm talking about something that is not necessarily optical light. So here you have light flowing in my window. And of course, if you're visually capable, you can see it with your eyes. But the type of light that I talk about when I talk about your light body is really information. When I hold up this sculpture and I'm talking about your toroidal energy field, it is energy. That is an accurate description of it, but this is also time, possibilities, and probabilities. So you can think of that as like statistical, mathematical likelihoods and combinations of events and narrative structures. And these are also timelines that come from the sun. The breath of the mind of the sun. That's like the best way I can describe it to you. And when you are doing sun gazing, and when you are doing flying rainbow lasagnaing, and when you are doing merkabaing, the verb version of all of these things, what you're doing is a balance between yourself as an individual and the larger cosmic context that you circulate within. And all three of these things have to do with manifesting realities, creating things, making things happen, or experiencing things in the world. And it can be having an experience yourself, or making a form of matter, or making a timeline, like paving a road of experiences that you walk upon. Hold on, I'm just going to hydrate. Thank you very much. So, a big part of this is that I want to share with you the value system of how you do this type of conscious co-creation. Because if I make like a pagination and a page break, let's talk about evil. Use my evil face. Evil stuff. Evil stuff is like, I don't care about the larger context. Like, I want to do stuff that's good for me. And I don't care if I disarrange reality and crash around and kill everyone else and destroy the fabric of space time. Like, that is the viewpoint of evil. And of course, it is not a positive survival characteristic. Like, acting in that way is not a good value, not just in the sense of random moralism, like whether it's right or wrong to show your ankles. It is not a good value in the value system of life to act in that way, because if you do it, then you end up not having life anymore. Like you destroy the world that contains you. And so, a key point is that the evil or satanic or Luciferian or self-serving, whatever are the words that we use to describe those very flawed presences that act in that way. They are not a equally valid culture that is different from your culture. It's not simply like, oh, like in my culture, we don't show our ankles, but in your culture, do it, you do you, girl. It's not really that level of accommodation because their culture sometimes wants to say, like we're just a bunch of crazy reptiles trying to make it in this world, kid, right? I'm being very silly and facetious, of course, and just doing what we need to do to make ends meet and put bread on the table. Of course, I'm being extremely silly here, but that's not valid because it's not actually pro survival. So in the panoply of multidimensional existence, of various forms of organisms in the world. And there are such an array of different forms of organism, different characteristics, just as on your planet. You have all these different types of animals. Like you have some that are like fluffy bunnies, and you have some that are like, befanged monsters. And that's fine. You don't actually have to make everyone into a fluffy bunny, but the monsters are supposed to swim, like in whatever, like deep dark, like Loch Ness or something like that. And then the fluffy bunnies are supposed to run around on the surface. Like everybody observes their realm and stays where they are supposed to stay. And also the comprehension is that like if you have teeth and fangs and all these aggressive weaponry, it's needed for the extreme environment that you live within, extremophiles. And so, yeah, some extremophiles have to have all these different armors and poisonous venoms and fangs and things like that because they need that to survive. And it works for them. It's working for them because they are clearly surviving. But when we think about something like the Houthis, those pesky occupiers of the interstices, with a continual hat tip of recognition to Pedro for coming up with that acronym for us many years ago in this class, those guys did not survive. Like they are here in the membrane of death. That is the definition of non-survival. That does not mean that means that, to speak in positives, their approach to extreme self-service and this particular level of negative value system was not successful. They are not in reality. They're not thriving. That's why they have a motivation to feed off of others or to engineer circumstances so that they can harvest energy off of you and off of your life because your values are good. You are doing the correct thing. You are actually generating and supporting and sustaining life. So there's a big key point. So I'm just going to synopsize and reiterate that in the larger multidimensional context, there are a variety of organisms and characteristics. Not everyone is nice. Violence can be necessary. However, that violence is supposed to be for the survival and continuation of a particular species or a particular line of consciousness, and that it is antithetical to their purpose of survival if they destroy themselves or their world through the values of self-service. Hi, good to see you, Martine. I like what Martine is saying over there in the chat. That's beautiful. And thank you for being here because I know you're in a radically different time zone. So now let's return to why am I talking about the negative value system, and we'll get back to the implants at the level of the verbalized mind and the things that have been impeding your ability to manifest. This lesson here today is really all about the inside becoming the outside. Let's go to pictures. Wait. So now we're going to do sorbet, mental sorbet. Everybody drink some lemon water. Let's do share screen and go to, this is fun. Because you know what? Okay, so like I'm preparing for the wonderful get together that's going to be here in Ojai. I'm excited because I'm going to show people my artwork. But you guys, if you won't be here, I wanted to be able to be like, let me do a little slideshow so that you can see some of what my artwork looks like. So this piece actually went to a collector, and it's a very, very special piece, and actually had like crystals at these different areas over here. So this is Merkaba Chakra 1, where you can see there is one chakra, one of those figure eights. One of those apple core shapes that's in there. And then you can also see here these implied straight lines that make the Merkaba shape around there. So there's an interplay and an interrelationship between the star tetrahedron shape, the Merkaba, and the shape of your chakras. These are two things that have an interrelationship. So now let's show you, this is Merkaba Chakra 2. And this one where you have the full set of chakras. So you have one that's like this and one that's like this in the center. And then you also have two complementary counter-rotating Merkabas around that. And I'll just zoom in so you can see some of the complexity that's in there. So yes, it makes some really, really beautiful subtleties and complexities. And this is, again, I'm showing you this not just randomly because I like to show artwork, and I do just randomly love to show artwork, but this is about the interplay between your chakras as time instruments, for lack of a better word, time anatomy, and your Merkaba. And as I've already taught about in this semester, what is Merkaba? It is a protective force field that doesn't just protect you from, projectile weapons or something like that, like laser beams, and you're shielding yourself from laser beams, even though that would be apt because that would be false light. But this is about shielding yourself from negative events in reality. When you put on your Merkaba, when you put it around yourself or about things or people or events that you care about, you're really putting a protective force field around negative events in reality. So, like I told you, my example, when I had my Merkaba shields up and bacon grease went everywhere, I was protecting myself from the reality structures where I got hurt. And so the bacon grease went everywhere, but it didn't go on me. So the Merkaba is about reflecting away and protecting you from negative reality structures. Here, let's just do, you want us to just do picture pages and just scroll? Because I wanted to show you this picture over here, but just here's some cool pictures. You don't always get to see these in class. This is another really nice, accurate rendering of the energetic anatomy. This is your light body, and I think it shows really, really well the sense of telescoping backward in time. You can almost kind of see how there's like, a time tunnel. Like this is the 1 point perspective, and all of this goes back into the distance, and that the size of these chakras gets smaller and smaller as you are get vibrating faster and faster in time. And so it's a nice, accurate picture of the anatomy. And then also you can see all the textural qualities that my paintings have. This is just a few more like fun. This is very casual. This is just my my screen roll or whatever here. This is actually all the same painting, but you can kind of see the textures that are on there too here. There you go. So was when it was in progress. And you can also see I don't overpaint. So I just paint like around all of these shapes. I don't paint like one solid color and then paint other colors on top of it. And there you can see like what it looks like when the light comes through there, and it really emphasizes these textural shapes. And let's see if there's a few more. I'm just doing some fast scrolling. You always see this one on the wall behind me. So let's give you a close-up view of what this looks like. This is pretty good because here you can see human form, chakra around them, and then all of this is time. Everything around here where I am moving my cursor, this seemingly psychedelic fantasy land is actually all time and the abstraction of time. And then you can see how all these people's time bodies are related. So this doesn't necessarily mean that they're standing next to each other, like a walking down the street. These people could be separated by vast distances of miles or kilometers. These people could be separated by vast distances in time, many, many years or even centuries in time. But their energy fields and the events of their lives are interwoven. So you have interwoven on the abstract level, interwoven on the human interconnectedness of life level. See if I just want to show you any more fun little things. Oh, this is nice too. These two are from when I did a project. You can still find it on YouTube of a time lapse of making this piece over here. So I had a friend had loaned me 10 years ago, even more, a camera that I could stick on the ceiling with Velcro. And then every day I took a couple of frames of what my painting process was like. So that's what these shots are like. And you should check it out. It's called Aurora Painting Vessel, and that's on my YouTube channel. So if I scroll in, you can see like, wow, like this also has all of those Merkaba shapes they're not actually straight lines that are moving all through here. They're actually clusters of bubbles, but it looks like straight lines. And then this super complex array of many, many chakras and many, many Merkabas together. And then here, let's see if we can go to the next picture. So that was part of the painting process. When you see the light going across it, then you can see how it emphasizes these particular forms that come out. So there's a lot of things here. There's the interplay of the upward facing pyramid and the downward facing pyramid, which is the specific and the receptive. There's also the interplay of straight lines and curved lines. Everything that I'm showing you is for a reason. It's all about balance. Your chakras and the Merkaba coming together. These are all systems or shapes that are about manifestation. Apologies, I must be really thirsty today. Balancing force field for manifestation. And then also, of course, the flying rainbow lasagna as a balanced force field about manifestation. So and you guys probably have seen this image quite a lot. This is a sculpture that I have hanging behind my head all the way back there. And now this is the imagery that I really wanted to show you. So this is a super close-up version. And here's another version. No, and then here's, now I'm driving you crazy. This is the one. Because this one is on my wall behind here, but you hardly ever get to really see it. So this is relevant for today. It is called The Birth of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Yes, it is also the album cover of the same title, which is definitely a kick-ass album. Check it out. We have here the solar disk, right? The sun, the earth, and you. These three things all have an interrelationship, and they all interrelate through the shape that is this shape. It's the shape of Earth's magnetosphere, it's the shape of your chakras, and it's the shape of the sun's heliosphere. All three of these layers of your time bodies overlap, interplay, interrelate, and have a huge impact on one another. So that means it's not just a cascade of events and energy that emanates outward from the sun. It's not just like the sun is the big boss and says, I'm the regional manager, I'm the sun, and I tell everyone what to do, and I'm going to tell the earth what to do. And then the earth is like your direct boss. And it comes into the office and is like, okay, I'm the earth now. I'm the direct boss, and you're the worker, the human. I'm going to tell you what to do. And then you're like, okay, I do it. It's not unidirectional like that. It really is you as an experiencer in the planet or on the planet, telling the planet about your experience, you telling the sun about your experience, you receiving information or what a lot of people would call light codes, the abstract nature of light as intelligence and data flowing into you, and then you experiencing as events. So these abstractions are translated into embodied experiences through you, through your body. You are the translation device. And when I say device or something like that, like I'm never a transhumanist, but you're the apparatus, you're the device, you are the technology, okay? You're the amazing, miraculous thing that is making it possible for something that is really, again, a mathematical abstraction or a symbolic representation of reality to become a biological experienced reality. And if I go really deep and esoteric on this, the truth is that is the purpose of why this planet and your body containers were created. The sun is a great thinker in the sky. And the sun is a ball of consciousness. I'll go back to my face so we can really talk about this. A ball of consciousness that has its own sense of self and its own sense of life experiences and is growing and evolving and achieving more wisdom, even as it moves through its creative process. And the sun is like an artist, like I'm an artist, and has a studio or a place where it performs its artwork. My studio is here. The sun's art studio is the solar system. And each one of the planets is like a painting with deep meaning that the sun has created. And then the life that is able to evolve and be sustained on those different planets is literally the biological artistic expression of the truth of that sun or that star. And we are not the only star system. We are not the only star system. We're the only solar system because our star is named Sol. But there's many star systems that have a similar thing, many art studios. There are many art studios out there. And it's complex time language is required in order to be able to comprehend who or what are the other cultures, organisms, and characteristics that are out there. But just please know that humanity is not the only organism with DNA that exists in the entirety of the galaxy across all time, and that all of your experiences of DNA and life embodiment are interwoven together. But that just as I am a unique type of artist, and every artist is not just like me. Like what do I do in my art studio? I draw things with pens and pencils, and then I paint things in very great detail and exactitude, little tiny paintbrushes, right? Not every artist does that. You know what some artists do? They have like a bucket full of paint. They splash it all over and it makes a big giant mess. And I'm like, yeah, like I don't make a big giant mess in my studio, but they do that. Got it. So let's also talk a little bit about divergent characteristics of these different types of art projects that are biological in the world. Like if we talk about a culture that is very violent, aggressive, not psychopathological, but just has this, like, an animal that's born with a lot of fangs and teeth and armor and all those types of things, that's definitely the expression of a particular type of artist that is exploring that type of biological architecture. And it might be, again, in an extreme environment on another planet, in another world. It might be a place where it's like it rains lava every day. So all the organisms have to be built with like super shells around them. And if we lived there, like your skin would die because you are not made to sustain rivers of lava, but they are made for that. And then all of their characteristics are appropriate to their environment and they are pro survival. But the issue happens when an organism from one place, one neighborhood that is built with all of that armor and weaponry has not fully evolved in order to know how to have a good value system and interact with other organisms, escapes its planet, and then goes around smashing everybody else's artwork. That is not okay, right? And the technology is the thing that allows it to escape from its environment prematurely and then go around smashing everybody else's artwork. So there is actually a pathway where a very armored and defanged type of aggressive creature, this whole culture on another planet, would go through an evolutionary process and learn how to become good neighbors and learn the correct values and the correct wisdom as to how to use their biological qualities without destroying all life everywhere. And that would be a non-technological process of self-knowledge, again, wisdom, evolution, accretion of light. They would have to accrete their light bodies to then eventually leave their planet, but not using a clank clank metal spaceship, using just light, and then be able to interact with the rest of the world in a positive way that adds to the music of reality and doesn't destroy the entire fabric of reality. So technology is a compensatory mode. The training wheels on a tricycle that allows someone that isn't very good at doing something to do it and to kind of learn, but it is allowing these very unrefined creatures or half-baked cookies to get out of the oven prematurely and drive around making problems. And so please know that that's a big part of what's going on. Technology itself has allowed for a premature interaction between cultures that are not mature enough to do this. And then also last week, I spoke about this very clearly. So that would be biological entities. It's a separate case. I'm fragmenting my own expression here. That case that I just described of animals on a planet that are made in an art studio that's by a star are biological, and they have the potential to go through the refinery of consciousness, what I talked about last week, and come out refined as pure light. But even though their technology is screwing them up, but they have that potential. When we talk about something that is like what went to Tiamat and then eventually went to Mars in our solar system, those were not art expressions of our star. That stuff that went to the planet that is now the asteroid belt did not come from our star. That's really, really big and important. That was not an expression of our star that went horribly awry. That was literally something that was more characterized as an invader to our whole entire solar system that then destabilized that planet and then destabilized Mars. And then why am I talking about this? Relevant to us, destabilized our home world, which we know as Atlantis or Earth before the fall. Before the fall, he was pushed and presently reside forcefully without consent in the human genome. And that all relates to why the innovation of the flying rainbow lasagna is necessary in order to address the garbage that has been inserted into the human genome. This shape is this oscillation within your DNA that makes it possible to energize the characteristics that are pro-survival that you want to stay within you, and to de-energize the characteristics that do not belong inside of you and that are not pro-survival, and that will not help you to either sustain a viable reality, create timelines that you can stay within, or help add to the fabric of time and space. Those are the characteristics that are like going to destroy everything, and you don't want them to be in you or in the world. So when you do this dance, it is a very, very powerful editing of what's in your body, so that that way you can have an empowerment. So I hope what I'm saying here now ties in with my assertion about it's not a top-down hierarchy from the sun to you, and the sun is like, shut up, employee, like I tell you what to do, because you are empowered to flying rainbow lasagna. That means as an employee of the cosmic infrastructure, you are very empowered to go through your DNA, which is like your work orders, and to be like, well, these parts of what I'm asked to do sound positive and good. I'll work on those projects. But these projects over here, those sound corrosive. Those sound like they would cause out of business. They would make our company go out of business if I did those things. I don't think I should do those things. So again, this goes against flaming lasagna as a concept, goes against the concept of genetic determinism. Determinism itself is a proposal in philosophy that you don't really have free will, and that you are simply determined or fated to experience certain things, especially with the invention, or sorry, discovery of what DNA was in the early, like in the 1950s or so, that they wanted to say, if it is written in your genetic code, it's inevitably going to be experienced by you. And that's a type of genetic determinism. But that's like saying, well, it's in my work orders. I'm an employee. I can only follow the work orders. But the truth is, you have free will, and you have an enormous amount of choice about the characteristics and potentials inside of you, which ones you energize and which ones you de-energize, which ones you carry on, not merely into the next generation, as DNA is often looked at only in its reproductive sense. Like sperms and eggs come together and they make babies, right? And they do, but also your DNA propels you. I have to dance. Your DNA is like chunking along, doing this amazing stuff inside of you, and it propels you through time. So DNA is a mechanism to be able to transfer information over time, not only from parents to children, but also yourself into the future. You are constantly gushing and dancing and making yourself in the future. And it's not actually part of this lesson, it's part of one of the other lessons, but I'll describe this. Your bodies of time. Let's draw this out. This is actually not part of this lesson, but I'm all in a groove. So let's go with it, because sometimes I riff in this way. I have to draw some of my famous stick figures now. Hold on. All right, and we'll make it so that you can kind of see things effectively. So here's your body of right now, and we'll make you big, signifying like you're in the foreground, and this is who you are right now. And let's say this is who you are at 2:30. And you know what? I think I'm hearing someone. I got to ask you guys to mute yourself. I can't deal with pressing buttons right now. So just check your settings and see if you're not muted, and then just please mute yourself. Thank you. All right, so now let's go into the past. This is who you were. Let's choose a different color also. This is who you were yesterday, and you're slightly smaller and slightly behind. Again, the time tunnel. We're just imagining going down the time tunnel here. And then, of course, there's, so we'll put a Y there for yesterday. And then let's make a version of you that's like way back here. And this is you like 10 years ago. I wanted to make you like very tiny. Your head looks like a 6. The pen is not easy. All right. There you go. And that's you, let's say, a long time ago. And this is the time tunnel, like coming forward in time like this. All right. This version of you that was red didn't fall over and die, but all of the cells of this version of you got transferred forward into the next version of self that was created through DNA. And at a certain point, inhabits this version of you over here, but your body goes through something called autophagy or autophagy, which is self-eating, which is where you digest all of the cells that are no longer relevant. So if we represent this former red body as like, here's a couple of cells that are in you over here that are the remnant of this version of you that was here years ago, at a certain point, those cells die. And then that version of you dies and is consumed by you. And then that liberates this green version of you to be alive and healthy. And that green version of you, of course, projects itself forward in time and then becomes a part of who you are here and now. But those cells will only stay with you for a certain amount of time. And then you will clean house, do the self-eating, autophagy, and clear out those cells. And then, of course, who you are right now at 2:30, let's draw who you're going to be, later in the day and then tomorrow. So let's make this, here's who you're going to be late. I want to make you the same size. Here's who you're going to be later. And then here's who you're going to be, tomorrow, like a big giant version of you, right? Like that's your head. That's who you'll be eventually. Like you're so close, you're like up against the camera. You are constantly bouncing your consciousness between these different levels of self. So your body exists there in time, way back here in, many, many years ago. And your consciousness bounces yourself to here and bounces yourself to here and then bounces yourself to here and bounces yourself to here. That's a very simplified version because you're really bouncing many, many times within each minute. You're really bouncing at the Planck length. You are jumping, and the Planck length is 10 to the negative 32. It is smaller than the width of a proton. It is very, very small. And so you are doing, they're so small, I can't draw them with this pen, but many, 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 many little tiny jumps, even within each second. And those jumps, anyway, the reason why I'm telling you all of this, those jumps are the end result or the propulsion of your DNA dance. It is your DNA propelling you through time at the Planck length, where you jump and you jump and you jump into successive versions of your body. So your DNA is transferring the information of you, the you-ness of you, from various biological physical container versions throughout the stream of time. So your DNA is a connection to time, and its behavior propels you through time. So it's not just that you are passing on characteristics and ideas and ideals from parents generation to children generation. You're really passing stuff to yourself. So please think of it in that sense. And your DNA is also part of the steering mechanism that is determining which timeline you're experiencing, as I'm continually teaching you about the lower quadrant of this, the time vortex, where you have an array of many, many different time pathways that you can travel upon. And it's really part of your emotional stance, your value system and belief system, your thought structures, and other characteristics that make you either be going at an angle or going straight up and down the center. Again, this is from recap from last week's class about a refinery of consciousness, like moving away from death, moving away from the membrane of death, and moving towards the central core timelines where you are able to achieve longevity and coherence and an eternal life. Okay? So back to the painting that now you can finally see what it actually looks like. That painting is all about the relationship of the sun, the earth, and you. And the painting is also about the transformative moment of transforming earth and you from toroidal lower dimensional energy state into flying rainbow lasagna higher dimensional energy state, to reiterate, just for the sake of like how musicians learn, like through playing a song over and over and over. Take it from the top. When we take this toroidal shape and we move it up and down or side to side or in and out really, really fast in a higher dimensional context that is called hyperspace, this shape turns into this shape. This now becomes very mathematically abstract because this shape topologically is actually still the same shape as a bubble. A bubble has an outside and an inside, and these are two discrete portions of the surface area of that shape. When we move this up and down in the higher dimensional reality known as hyperspace, we get this shape where we no longer have a discrete separation between the outer world and the inner world. We now have a way for those two surface areas to communicate. Here's the outer world where my pen is touching, and then here's the inner world. And this connective tissue here is where these two worlds connect. That's the red realm, the realm of your red chakras, the realm of physicality. Your body is a sacred container, and this whole world is a sacred container. And this world is forum within which or upon which you are able to experience the interplay of the inside and the outside. So the topics we're talking about today are about building your light body, achieving the proper values for being able to contribute to direct reality conscious co-creation, and the inside becoming the outside. But again, if someone wanted to hijack you and hack you, if they wanted to mispurpose the process of manifestation, if they put something bad on the inside, then you would manifest something bad to the outside, kind of like garbage in, garbage out. Like if I'm not, but if I were interested in manifesting a bunch of garbage, I'd be like, you're a manifestation machine. If I put garbage inside of you and you're a manifestation machine, it means that you will therefore perforce manifest a bunch of garbage. And who wants to manifest a bunch of garbage? The Pooties. The Pooties, for incomprehensible reasons. I don't know why, but they have an intention to try to hack or mispurpose or screw up the fabric of space-time, even though it's totally against any level of survival and sensibility. They're trying to manifest garbage. So let's talk about the commonalities, because we use Merkaba to protect us from manifesting garbage. Merkaba is about the balance of the upward facing pyramid of specific desires and the downward facing pyramid of receptivity. Flying Rainbow Lasagna is about a balance of energy versus entropy, or the characteristics that we refine to vivification and life, and the characteristics that we refine into restful non-being and non-existence. And then Sungazing. Let's talk about sungazing, because these are all practices too. So I'm going to go through and reiterate all of the ways that you can perform these practices. Sungazing is also activity that is about the respectful balance of your own desires and the desires of the larger context. You're balancing your desires as an individual with the desires of the planet, balancing your desires as an individual with the desires of the sun, the guy at the center or lady at the center of this whole reality creation. And all of these manifestation systems also have a lot to do with balancing out your desires as an individual with the needs and desires of the community. But you can't completely abrogate your own desires, especially if you live in a dysfunctional community. Because you guys are like, oh, we live in a dysfunctional community. I'm like, I know, I've been here for over 20 years. I've mapped and cataloged every dysfunction. So I definitely know about that. But if you're like, well, you know something, I want to do what is cosmically correct and do the right values, but everyone around me in my community doesn't approve, then you're very much at odds with your community and it's justified. Like, whatever. What if you live in a community of people who are all evil psychopaths and they all want to kill fluffy bunnies? And you're like, I do not consent and I don't want to manifest and conform with timelines that are about that. So you are part of the protect fluffy bunnies and they are like the whatever majority of horrible people in your world all want to destroy beautiful fluffy bunnies. So you don't have to mitigate your own desires or give up yourself in order to fit in and conform to a society or a community, especially if the community is exhibiting anti-life or insane values or values that are not disrespectful accommodation of life. And when I say a respectful accommodation of life, I'm not just about like the sanctity of life. The sanctity of life, we never must kill because that's not fair. Because if the horrible monsters stay on their planet, then it's like, of course, like leave them there. They're not doing any kind of a problem. But if they start to go to planet Fluffy Bunny, or if they go to your planet to try to kill you, then there's a problem. Just like in the world, if there's some ugly, gross insect or whatever, and it wants to live underground and never see me or, do anything to me, that's fine. Like, girl, you do you, be an ugly, gross insect. But if it like crawls up through my drain, like in my bathtub or whatever, and it's in my house, then I'm like, ow, like that's a gross thing. Get out of my world. You're not allowed to be here. Either, it gets to be killed, destroyed, or, otherwise moved out of the house in some way. Important stuff for you to recognize. You got gross stuff in your DNA. Gross stuff has crawled up out of the drain in your tub of your DNA and is trying to inhabit you and your world. And you don't have to just be like, ew, it's gross stuff. What do I do? I guess I'll sit here and respect the sanctity of life. Because you know what? If that happens to a larger extent, then you don't get to have your life. Like, a gross insect from my tub is one thing. But what if it's a bunch of microbes that are deadly and they get inside of you? Then it's like, you're gone, you're bye-bye, you're kaput, because you cannot respect life so much that you lose your own life. That is a disrespect of your own life. So the sanctity of life must be balanced with the self-respect of your own life. And you also must balance your respect for the values of your community with whether or not that community is insane and dysfunctional, or whether it is itself a community of longevity. So you're in a world right now where a lot of the things that are going on are insane and dysfunctional. A lot of the larger superstructures of your world are worthy of going to entropy. Like government, the concept of government itself is worthy of going to entropy. So I know that saying these things like makes me a huge target to nation state governments themselves. They're like, Aurora is a domestic terrorist. I'm like, I'm not a domestic terrorist. I'm a political dissident. And I have opinions that are about the invalidity of government and about the need to move towards self-governance. So just, making that very, very abundantly clear. But no, your government is dysfunctional. Then government is also not necessary in the world that you're moving into. And it was not necessary in the world that I'm familiar with, that I described to you as ancient concurrent Atlantis, that in that world where we have all accreted so much light and built our light bodies to the point where we are easily in rapport with divine consciousness and solar consciousness at all times, we do not need a human or organizational intermediary to tell us what to do. So this is important stuff on the levels of self-empowerment. You are totally validated by the cosmic infrastructure that you don't need an intermediary to tell you what to do. And so all the things I'm teaching you about right now, Merkaba, Sungazing, and the Flying Rainbow Lasagna are huge tools for self-empowerment. And also, I will tell you that the government that doesn't like me very much definitely did not want me to be able to talk to you about the Merkaba. Like I actually was thinking about this because, it's like since 2021 or whatever, they tried to suppress my voice a lot. And that was actually one of the topics that was most incendiary. And that's how I know that it's a really, really worthwhile inner practice. Because if it threatens the control structure of what is here, then you know it's very effective. So yeah, the Merkaba as a tool for protecting yourself as you move through time, and also the Merkaba as a tool for manifestation and empowerment in terms of manifesting events. So let's get into the activities. You do a Merkaba while you do sun gazing, and you also flying rainbow lasagna while you do sun gazing. These are all three things that are totally interrelated. It's kind of like saying, like, if you're a runner, or if you're like me and you walk on the treadmill all the time, like eating is a big part of what you do. Like eating, fueling your athletic activities and you know everything that you do is a big part of that. So sun gazing is fuel. It is about eating so that you can fuel your spiritual athletic activities. Let's go to another picture here. Okay, so I have, let's get the annotation too. I have this one over here so that I can show, like, here's, hold on. I'm certain the most silly faces. I want to draw like here is the sun over here. And these are solar rays of consciousness. These aren't just merely optical light forms that come out. These are solar rays of consciousness. All right. They're timelines, possibilities, and probabilities. And then this, I'm going to use this light blue color, but it's really more of a deep indigo blue, but that way you can see it more easily on your screen. This is your tendril of attention. This is like a spiral appendage that reaches out from your mind and eats light. This is what we do in order to really feed the light body. And first, we'll go through in an ideal system how you do sun gazing. So, for those of you who are formally enrolled students, let me just hydrate here. Sorry about that. Let me just hydrate some more. First, let's do the pristine architecture of how things are supposed to be. Sun gazing on a spring morning is the complementary video recording to the whiteboard that I did, like all the way back in, I guess, 2011 or so, 2012, when I was first recording this curriculum. And enrolled students can still find that as part of the password protected videos that showcase that I have on Vimeo now. Okay. And it's very poignant when I tune into that video because, again, like I'm telepathic. And so I go into the feeling state of when I first recorded that video. And it was so clear at that time. I never took it for granted, but it's so poignant now because right now it's so difficult to sun gaze. It's so difficult to create that tendril of attention and connect with the sun because, well, let me get a caca-poo-poo color here. This is what's going on right now. This is 5G. 5G, caca poo poo all around here. In fact, not just in one direction, but everywhere, all around your whole entire body. That's 5G. It's terrible. It's terrible. Let's erase it. I want to really energize that in you. But that's why it's so poignant because I can remember what it was like to be able to have this very easy is not the right word because I always had to effort, but this very clear way, very clear and direct way to be able to connect directly to the sun, to feed my light body, and then to receive new information and levels of inspiration that come from connecting with the sun. So it's not just optical light, although optical light from the sun is hugely important to our metabolic health. Optical light from the sun not only helps your body to be able to alchemize vitamin D, like into experience, so that that way you can be healthy and like create the formfulness of your body and your bones and all of that. But it's incredibly important to your retinas. It's incredibly important to your skin health. So basically, like your neurological health, your bone health, your ability to see. So many different things are dependent upon regular exposure to and access to real natural sunlight. And to me, that should be a no-brainer, but to this world, it's not a no-brainer. Like if you spend most of your time indoors in like in a artificially illuminated world that might be LEDs or fluorescent lighting and hardly ever go outside under natural light, then it is a starvation of the light body. It is a starvation of the body of consciousness. It is a starvation of the body of pure intelligence or pure divine information. And so when you look at the lifestyle that is promoted in this world, that is basically to always be driving in cars, to always be wearing clothing that covers up most of the surface area of your body, to spend most of your time indoors under the artificial lighting, and then to come out when the sun has already gone down so that you're not going to get access to that sun. Like that is pretty much the industrialized world, working in different offices and factories. It is an intentional starvation of the light body. It's not just 5G that creates the caca poo poo. Let's also say this is electricity, the uncontrolled electromagnetic fields that happen from just having like overhead power lines and all of these different types of electrical conduits, batteries, and other things like that. That also creates antithetical force fields that are difficult to break through. But all of those things were in existence, like those electrical force fields were in existence in 2011, and I could do sungazing pretty easily. I lived in upstate New York at the time, and there were some chemtrails and particulates in the air, but not that bad. And it was really, even when I lived in Northern California in 2014, I noticed the particulates in the sky started to get to be really burdensome and pretty bad, but I could still do my sun gazing. And then even by 2017, when I lived in Southern California, still definitely felt a lot more frying from like Wi-Fi and stuff like that. That was starting to become a lot more prevalent, but I could still do my sun gazing. But it was 2020/2021 when they started with the 5G. I should have just used my little piece of paper, but you know what I'm talking about. That became an antithesis force field that was very, very difficult for my light body to break through to be able to connect effectively with the sun. So there's a couple of different things here that were going on. One is particulate, one is frequency, and then one is let's use, I don't know what I should use. Well, we'll make a doo-doo sun. Here's a doo-doo sun. This is a false sun, like a false sun simulator that's in front of the sun, and it is sending out doo-doo light, but it's not brown. It's kind of more like LED. It's not the real sun. The real sun is golden and yellow and feels really good on your skin. The real sun on my face feels like a caress. And the real sun in my eyes feels very gentle and positive. And when the real sun bounces off of something like the greenery of foliage or the bright color of a fuchsia flower, and it comes into my eyes, it feels like a literal food that I'm eating. And in recent years, like in the past 5 years, it's been very rare for me to be able to get that level of nourishment because there have been so many things that have been preventing that from happening. But it's really, really essential to make reality happen. You have to eat light. To manifest and make stuff happen, you have to eat light. So when people think about magic, they're like, oh, magic, like you wave your magic wand and poof, you make stuff happen and something happens out of nothing. But it's like, no, something happens out of something. Like cupcakes do not just magically appear out of the oven. Like you put ingredients together in a bowl, put them into the oven, and then cupcakes come out the other side. If you want cupcakes, you need ingredients. If you want reality cupcakes, you need to eat light. Light is literally what you use to feed your body. And anyone who has raised chickens, I have not, but I know we have some chicken farmers in the class. You know that your chickens don't lay and create eggs, which are like the potentials for life, unless they get access to a number of hours of bright sunlight. So a lot of the time in the wintertime, they don't lay as many eggs because their whole biological body clock says it is not enough light for me to be able to make these eggs, which are potentials for the future. So please, guys, you got to think about like your own eggs. Females have a monthly cycle, and you have your menstrual eggs that you are, creating each month. Those are potentials for life and for the future. And just consider that that is what you're doing. You have to eat enough light in order to create the future. So all of these manifestation experiences or techniques are reliant upon access to light. In order for me to do sun gazing now, I have to do so much clearing, like really heroic efforts of clearing, heroic efforts of jumping the high jump, like way over a big giant obstacle, and then reaching the sun. So that's why check out the original video. It was sun gazing on a spring morning. It's very poignant because that was a time when I didn't have to jump the high jump just to be able to get light. But the light is there for us, but it's just very extra, super difficult to be able to access it. I'll talk more about that. Let's talk about the ideal pathway. So, when there are not obstacles between you and the sun, what you do is you reach out with your tendril of attention. You place your tongue on the roof of your mouth so that it creates a connection between right here is your throat chakra, and then up here is your inner eye. When you place the tongue on the roof of the mouth, it connects those two chakras together. Okay. And so you've got energy comes in from the sun, connects through your inner eye, and then you swallow it down. And you literally bring it down through all of your other chakras here into your belly. And this place is not only where you have your small intestines and where, you keep your food, but it's also like where you have your reproductive organs. And it's your energy center of your body. It's your cauldron. And I like to sit like this in this position, like, with my legs crossed. Sit like this if it's comfortable for you. Like, never hurt your knees or your hips or anything like that. I always teach that to people. But if you can sit comfortably like this, do it, because it also creates a very nice basis for the Merkaba. Like, here's one leg, here's the other leg, and then here's the front of the Merkaba. And so you've got this just nice pyramidal base just by sitting like that. Okay. So, uh, you fill up this area of your body almost as if it is a chalice. So let's draw like a container, like a bowl, right? And you fill it up. So the action of receiving sunlight is an action, not, oh my goodness, it is active, not passive. So it's not the same as just like getting tan outside. And everybody, it's nice to get tan outside. Like, don't get me wrong. It's nice to just sit in your bikini, just kind of lay out and be like, okay, like this feels great. Energy is flowing onto my skin. But to do sun gazing, you sit with your spine erect and you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth and you send out your mind to the sun. It's an act of willpower and you're engaged and you breathe it in. You breathe in. I'll go back to my face. Well, wait, first I'll show you the energy pathway because I showed you a simplified pathway, but it really comes in and it circulates in figure eights. It circulates in figure eights through each one of these chakras, getting kind of bigger and wider as it goes. And then it comes down into here. I'm going to erase this because it gets scary, but it comes down into here. And then what happens is your whole entire body starts to fill up from the base all the way up to here. And then as your whole body fills up, as you're like breathing in successive more and more amounts, at a certain point, the chakra that is facing in this direction, out the front of your face, spontaneously is going to want to turn upward and face in this direction. So I'll show that to you with my face. Well, you can see it with my face in the thumbnail, but it's very tiny. But your face goes almost like a sunflower. Like, here's my face like this. And at a certain point, my chin tilts up and my face faces the sky. And then I do this maneuver that I call a slam dunk. Now, I do not know anything about basketball, but it kind of reminds me of something that I've seen in basketball, where you have this slam dunk where it's kind of like alley-oop up and then to the sun, kapow, slam dunk. It's got that kind of a sense of an arc of like up and then to your completion, to the basket. And the whole point is you've made a complete circuit. Energy comes from the sun into you and then through you and then back to the sun. And when you do that, now I'll go back to my face and I'll kind of act this out for you. When you do that, this is not merely an abstraction. You are really combining your energy with the sun in order to manifest reality. So when you do sun gazing in the morning and at night, a lot of the time I describe it to you and I describe it to beginners as just like, just keep your eyes closed. Like, I don't want you to burn out your retinas. Allow the sun to bathe your face. Have a coffee talk meeting with your boss. Be like, hi, boss, this is me. I'm Aurora. And tell me what I need to do today. And then at the end of the day, give back your information. Be like, okay, boss, here's what I was able to do. And then set me up for tonight. What am I going to do tonight? And then I'll get up in the morning and then we'll do this all again. But it's so much more than that. All right. So that's kind of like I have been giving you a shortish, cartoonish way of being able to comprehend what it is. But it is a very deep and profound activity where you're actually in an equality partnership with the sun. And this is big because we're going to get into questions of moral culpability and who's in charge. So clearly, something is not okay in the world, and who's responsible. And I will tell you that in recent years, so like the past, it's been very embattled, of course, since 2021. And the sky has been very polluted and the frequency field has been very polluted. It takes huge efforts for me to be able to do my proper sun gazing and even to do the flying rainbow lasagna. I'll teach you how to do flying rainbow lasagna with the sun as well in this class right now. But every time I'm able to achieve this and to actually do it, the messages that I get from my boss, the sun, they're not about like how I need to paint a painting or make a sculpture or anything like that. That's what I used to get messages that were these direct insights that were like, if you guys have my set of my cards, my messages to humanity cards, and you can see my different sketches in my sketchbook and things like that. That's what it used to be for me. My job was always to receive this information through my inner eye, have an inner vision, and sketch it or make it or paint it or something like that. It hasn't been that way for a long time. And it's not just because I'm whatever, like the sun isn't like out of gas or not inspired or whatever. No, those things are still really important. But all of the message that I get right now are about how to fight against and triumph over this stuff. That's it. It's like the sun and all light everywhere is really recognizing like the priorities must be um, at the level of fighting for one's existence. And even though making artwork and music is supremely important to me and is a big part, it's not merely a decoration on our existence or a peripheral accoutrement. It is the main dish, but it's not even been appropriate to do that main dish because reality would be obliterated if I do not do something, or if one does not do something to directly fight against these things that are trying to block out the light and prevent us from growing our light bodies, accreting light, and becoming full-fledged members of the world of pure light. So I needed to say that to you. Not only has it become more difficult to sun gaze in recent years, but when I do achieve my sun gazing, the information that I get is always supportive of and energizing of battle activities. And that's it, because we've definitely been in a form of spiritual warfare or consciousness warfare. You are fighting for the liberation of your consciousness and for the liberation of your light body. And so all of the efforts recently have been towards that, with minimal efforts towards these other, again, very important activities. But just like it's like if you don't fight for the world, you can't have the world. Like I got to fight for my art studio so I can even have an art studio to have the paintings, to be able to make the paintings inside of there. So much of my collaboration with the sun within the past several years has been all about how to fight effectively against these things and against these things that were done to many people in this world here. And it's been a collaboration to get into moral culpability and the shaking of one's fist at the sky and the cosmic complaints department. Because the old perception is kind of like, the sun is your boss. You're just the stupid worker. Like, get to work, kid. And if you don't like something, you're also like, don't blame me. I just work here. And blame that guy up there. He's the boss. And we can't do that. We have to be stepping more into levels of personal empowerment and self-responsibility in how much we create and generate of the world and of our circumstance. And yes, I was very disappointed for many years about what I perceived as the lack of help, assistance, or activity directly from the sun in fighting against all these things that are written on my notepad of crappiness there. And at a certain point, I was like, that's it, son, like just like figure out get away from me. I'm just going to do everything I need to do. I felt very like, why even bother connecting with the sun? Like the sun isn't being effective in what we need to do. And then at a certain point, I felt like the sun was me. And I think that's why I'm trying to share this with you and articulate this. I've never really talked about this before, but it transformed from the experience of having a conversation with something that was external to me or that had a different level of perception to feeling like I'm talking with directly an appendage of myself and that I'm um, vibrating with my self state in order to solve a problem that we both are working on from our unique vantage points. I think that's the most balanced way to look at this. Because the previous way of looking at it was kind of like, okay, son, like you come up with all the problems, just give them to me. Like I'm the baby. Like here's the airplane. You guys ever like be a babysitter or whatever, and you got to take the spoonful of baby food and kind of go into the baby's mouth and be like, here's the airplane. The baby goes, ah, and the food goes inside, and they eat their applesauce. That's kind of what it used to feel like to me. Like I was active and I was a participant with the son, but the son was kind of like giving me the baby food, and you come. And then at a certain point, when we had so much difficulty in this spiritual battle, and it felt, so hopeless that I was kind of like, son, like what is going on with you? And I felt like I had to just do it all on my own. And now I feel like there's more equity and more balance. I don't have to do it all on my own or from generating from this position of being here on the ground, but also I can't expect the son to do everything. And that's why pretty much now all of my coffee meetings are like battle meetings about what to do about this stuff that is trying to come between me and the sun and block stuff out. So it's not supposed to be that way. Sun gazing is supposed to be beautiful, cosmic partnership, like on the levels of sexual intimacy. I never mean to be crude if I talk about it in that way, because sexual intimacy is like very private. And I feel like it should be just a part of your own private world. But the sense of the sun being a partner that you are coming together with in the same way that mammals come together to be able to create life. So I joked about this in class last week. Like, if you're a fish, like you don't really come together with your partner. Like the girl fish, the girls deposit their eggs in a stream somewhere, and then the boys swim by, deposit some sperm on top of the eggs, and they all swim off, and they're kind of like, good luck. See if anybody survives. And sometimes there's some fish that happen as an end result. Like they have so many chances. They grow them in like, hundreds or thousands of baby fish. They're working in larger numbers than mammals. And they don't have intimacy in their partnership. Like they're not even together in the moment of conception. You got it? Like it's all very apart from them. So this is also kind of a little bit of a riff on how biology informs our value system and our perception. But for mammals, there's the moment of coming together and union, and then the new life that comes out of that union. Sun gazing is supposed to be the same thing, where you're made of light and you're a miniature cosmic microcosmic version, a fractal version of what the sun is. And you are the sun's offspring, but don't make it be weird because you're like, you know, coming together with your offspring. This is like going in the wrong direction. We got to fix this. Because I don't want you to think like you're making love to your parent. Like that doesn't sound right. Okay, so just fix this, fix this, fix this. Um, Cheeky's arriving. Cheeky's like, I have to rescue Aurora from embarrassment. She's saying the wrong things. I need to come over here immediately. Cheeky can come over here. No. Okay, I heard her little pause. She will. There we go. Okay, good. Cheeky break. Cheeky break. Okay, good job. Come over here, girl. Let's hug. Let's say hi. Hi, everybody loves you. Everybody loves you. Come on over. No, it might be time for bribes. It might be time for food. It might be time for bribes. We'll see what happens over there. Just time for water. So, okay, to rescue myself. Although you are the creation of and the offspring of the sun, please don't think about it like some weird, parental lovemaking type of thing. Um, so you are a fractal offshoot of the sun, and you are really connecting to your own self that is coming from a very different rate, moving at a very different time, and key point, it has a very different access to a larger amount of information. So you guys have access to the amount of information that you can hold within like a brain of this size, right? the sun and the stellar network has access to information that you can hold within not only one galaxy, but the entire span of all cosmic galaxies everywhere. It's a much, much bigger brain. The sun can contain a lot more information and light than you can. But eventually, you actually will evolve and become the sun. So the sun is actually future you. Spoiler alert, I always tell you that. You become the sun, and that still does not ruin the entire journey for you. You'll remember me telling you this. You'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember where I said that in class. I become the sun. And one day you'll be at the sun. You'll be like, oh, this is what that was about. Yes. And also, so that's, you're going to start to think about this as vibrating with yourself in the future, the back and forth and the rapport of time. Linear time language is not adequate to be able to talk about this, but basically, when I talk about the sun's evolution, so we do this in Path of Light class. I'm going to restart Path of Light class for the month of March, so you guys can be a part of it. The different states of matter, from a Bose-Einstein condensate to a solid, to a liquid, to a gas, to a plasma, to a beam. So plasma to beam. Plasma is what the sun is, and plasma is also what a fire flame is. And it is disorganized light. So and plasma is also physical or semi-physical. It has no weight. You cannot weigh it on a scale. It does not weigh kilograms, but it is a physicality structure and it can transmit electricity. So do you know if you have like a candle flame, you can actually run up electric currency through the flame. Like that's pretty amazing, like a wire into the flame and then another wire on the other side, and that the electricity goes through the wire and it goes across the candle's flame and then it goes into the other side. Like it's pretty amazing. So just key point is that plasmas transmit electricity and that plasmas have a physicality presence, although they do not technically have weight in the sense of being massive and being able to be weighed on a scale. But light has no physicality presence. Light is not experiencing space. It is only experiencing time. Take my Path of Light class. You will love it. I talk all about this stuff. All right. Light that is in a beam is more organized than light that is plasma. A plasma is somewhat disorganized. The light's going every direction. I call it hither, thither, and yon. All right. Every direction. And that's what the sun is doing. So the sun is not in its hyper-organized state. It's only moderately organized. And you're like, wait a minute, the sun is not completely together. It doesn't know everything. It doesn't know. No, it is not completely together. The sun itself has a giant refinery of consciousness around itself and is figuring out its own ideal pathway of being a sun star ascended master on the right pathway of eternal life. So even as each one of us is writing our pathway to get in alignment with that divinity and divine sense of self, the planet is also getting in alignment with that. The sun and all the rest of the stars have to get their SHIT together, and they have to get in alignment with that thing. What does that look like to a star? The sun is sending out a pattern of events in reality, and that's what light is. So the solar wind, let's talk about the solar wind. Let's talk about my name. The solar wind and the sun are sending out huge amounts of energy. Like if my face is the sun, all around the sun, you have the corona, and that is superheated gases, particles like neutrinos, lots of high energy stuff, and it's blowing away from the sun. It is actually the balance and the complement to the crushing inward energy of gravitation that the sun feels because it is simply so massive. So for the sun to exist, it is a balance of both the forces that would make it contract and come in, because it's like big, giant gravitational stuff, right? And then the stuff that is expanding and sending outward, which is actually a consciousness activity. The sun's energy and the high energy particles and the coronal mass ejections that are coming away from the sun are not only sustaining the sun's existence, they have a force to them. So when you have the sun over here and the earth over here, the sun is, of course, radiating in all directions as a sphere. But that energy comes to the earth. And if this is the earth's magnetosphere, it kind of, the solar wind blows the magnetic field lines of the earth out behind it. Just like if you stand in front of a fan and you have long hair like me, it makes your hair blow out behind you. So this is the interaction of time bodies, and it is visible in the world of five senses reality. Human created satellite sensors can sense the solar wind. They can sense when there are influxes of energy, when there are these particular explosions of energy that are called CMEs, that means coronal mass ejection. And then sometimes there are also solar flares. So coronal mass ejections, that's particulates, mass is stuff. And solar flares is energy or frequency. And all of these represent thought patterns of the sun. And the sun is like a musician that is playing music and it's like, I'm playing this song. Am I doing this song right? I don't know. I'm going to send out all these notes to all of these biological fractal miniature versions of me, photons as feelers. And I'm going to send this energy through the people and organisms, because it also includes like dogs and butterflies and fluffy bunnies, and also horrible monsters that live like in the drain of your underground of your bathtub. And I'm going to see if that pattern of reality is correct. When we do sun gazing, we reflect back that pattern of reality. And if your life is effed up, you have to say, not correct. You send that energy back. When you're doing sun gazing, you are receiving energy and you're feeding your light body, but you also give a reflection back. That's what that oomph or alley oop is, when you're kind of like, here's my life. And it's really important in the accurate analogy in intimate partnerships that you must be authentic. And let's even take aside all the cringeworthiness of intimate partnership and thinking about parenthood and things like that. But let's just do like any kind of relationship, any kind of collaboration, any kind of business partnership. You have to be authentic. You know, if someone's going to be whatever cooking food for you, and they're the chef and you're eating in the restaurant, you have to have an authentic relationship. Because what if they burn the food and it tastes terrible and you eat it and you're like, that tasted terrible. And you have to communicate to the chef and be like, no, you way overcooked this. This is not good at all. And then you can uh, uh, get the sun to update its recipe, get the chef to change the way that they're cooking the food so it comes out much better. That is literally what the sun is doing in a rapport with you and every other alive person, every other alive organism down to the microbial level, and definitely with the planetary structure too. That the sun is looking for that feedback and wants to be able to hear, like the chef is looking out through the kitchen and being like, did they like my food? Did they not like my food? And the verbalized mind is what has been preventing the sun from getting accurate feedback from us for a long time. So in that chakra picture, you know, I showed the energy comes in through your forehead, circulates through here, all the way down your body into your belly and where you have your energy reservoir, and then back up, and out through here. But what's this? What's this right here? This is the solar plexus, and that's the yellow chakra. And that is the area of conscious verbalized mind. And that is the area of the ego. And that is where you have most of your inhibitions to direct solar consciousness connection and the things that you have to learn to overcome even before you have to learn how to alley-oop and overcome these things. So when it used to be just sun gazing on a spring morning, what you had to do was learn to quiet your mind, because the constant verbalized mind makes it very difficult to have a nonverbal rapport with the sun. And you'll, as you start to accrete light and become more adept, you will really start to recognize the distinction between verbalized thoughts in your mind and a whole different level of cognitive activity, which is non-verbalized thought. That is the goal of all schools of meditation. in meditation, you are able to either bring yourself to a state of inner silence to turn off the verbalized talking mind, or to create a distance between yourself as consciousness and experiencer and the verbalized mind. So sometimes you work on just shutting your mind up. Sometimes you're like, okay, mind, you can say whatever you want to say, but I'm not listening. And that's mantra or mantram, like whatever is your mantra, whatever you're gonna um, um, repeat to yourself inwardly over and over, the syllables and the phonemes that you speak with your mind on a repetitive basis, after a certain amount of time, become abstract symbols. They lose all meaning, but the mind continues to repeat them. And that gives you, the actual consciousness, a little bit of breathing room. It's kind of like saying to the mind is all over the place. The mind is like blip, blah, blip, blah. I'm thinking this, I'm thinking this, I'm saying this, and saying this. Like, it is literally a form of torture. Yeah, this stuff was implanted here not to elevate you, but to diminish you. That is the reference in the biblical literature of the Tower of Babel, where humans were diminished in their inner state and in their capacity to communicate with one another, to communicate with yourself and with the Son and with God, and also with your ability to communicate with one another. Implanted verbalized language, and especially with no off button, was meant to diminish your divine connection. And it's a big part of the artificial implants that went into humans. So the talking mind begins when you become verbal as a tiny, like a little tiny child. And then you start to develop your sense of ego self as the mind state who can speak and who can describe experience with words. So for many people, at whatever age chronologically you begin to get into levels of inner silence and meditation, you might begin to access mind states that you really have only accessed since you were a tiny preverbal child. So there's been a cessation of your inner development in a certain way as the ego has become more to the forefront, like directly in front of you here, and is always talking, and you're attending to the needs of the ego. And then the actual true eternal self is silent, but still very present, and has not had levels of attention and inner development simply because you could not access and embody and experience that level of your own inner self. In order to do sun gazing effectively, you must learn to access that level of your inner self, because the sun does not speak in the English language or French or Chinese or whatever is your native language. And I'm happy we have a very international class, so people of all different um, language structures are here. The sun speaks in light codes. That's a word that I've taken from your world of spiritual seekers. It speaks in abstractions of pure intelligence. And those abstractions are frequencies, waveforms, colors. It's basically the language I've been teaching you in this class, the interdimensional language of color, line, movement, form, texture, and tone. And tone being like la 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 la, musical tone. And so these are the abstract words that the sun uses to communicate with us. So when you do sun gazing, it's not an intellectual activity. You cannot expect to receive your messages from your divine coworker in the form of a memo, like Inri, your assignments for today, and then bullet points of what you'll be doing. It is a deep inner knowing. It is a deep intuition. It is a knowing without words. And it's important for you to be able to start to practice achieving that level of knowing without words to be able to have a rapport and communication with the sun. And when you're able to do this communication with the sun, it's also super fast. Like you're able to get across a lot more than in the extremely slow flapping of the moving mouth parts. No offense to you guys. I love class and I love being a teacher and I love coming and talking to you here for 3 hours. But I'm telling you, like, if we were just telepathic beyond words, everything that I would tell you for 3 hours, I could tell you like this fast, boom, 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 done. And you'd be done. So much more fast and direct and also much more accurate. So words are slow. Phonemes are prone to misinterpretation, and it's simply not the most efficient way to be able to share information. So, in order to sun gaze, you have to first practice quieting your mind, getting into states of inner silence and receptivity, and essentially focusing your attention. When people talk about how their mind is distracting them, it really means that the tendril of attention is all over the place. Like the tendril of attention is like, first I'm going to think about the window. Then I'm going to think about an umbrella. Then I'm going to think about a lamp. Then I'm going to think about this. Then I'm going to think about cupcakes. Like the mind is all over the place. So in a lot of ways, meditation is about quieting down the verbalized mind. It is also about learning to focus your attention so that you can have that tendril go to where you want it to go. And when you master those two things, inner silence and focusing your attention, then what you do is to sun gaze. You sit in inner silence and you focus your attention on the sun. It's actually perfect. So right now, actually, the sun is all the way over there in the sky, but it's bouncing off of some shiny car or something like that. That's right here in the like parking lot area of where I live, and it's kind of reflecting on my face. So I could do sun gazing right now with all of you. Okay, let's do it all together. All right. So usually I sit with my legs crossed. I'll just do it standing while I'm here with you. So the key point when you do sun gazing, you want to connect your lower chakras, your pelvis down to your legs, to the earth. But Aurora, like you're here on the second floor of an apartment building. Like, how in the world are you going to connect yourself to the earth? Go down there, go down the stairs and stand on the actual earth. And that's real sun gaze. I'm like, yes, yes, of course, that is ideal. It's way better to go there directly. But I don't always go there directly because sometimes it might be rainy outside. I want to get my feet wet or whatever. You might live someplace where it's like negative 32 degrees and you don't want to get frostbite. In order to sun gaze, you don't have to put your physical body on the ground, although it is wonderful to do so. So if you can stand with your bare feet on the ground, that's best, or sit with your behind directly on the ground, that's fantastic. But if you can't do those things for whatever reason, what you do is you envision that either your feet are touching the ground or that your root chakra is connecting to the earth. And your root chakra is the base of your spine. So if I show you on this picture over here, your root chakra is here at the base of your spine. So that is kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. Like just if you with your mind, if you can just follow your spine to the lowest area of where it is in the lumbar region of your back and feel where it connects with your pelvis, like that is literally your root chakra. So just to be really clear, like your root chakra is not your genitals and it's not your anus. It's really the center point of your spine. And you envision that that point is either connecting to the surface of the earth, or you can even envision it as a deep connection. When I make my arms go like this, I'm envisioning a big giant pyramid that goes all the way to the center of the earth. Like if this is the earth, all the way to the crystalline core of the earth. And why am I putting so much verbal energy into envisioning this? I'm always talking about with sun gazing, like sun gazing. It's about the sun. It is about the sun, but it's also about creating that connection with the earth, the physicality world, the world of matter. Matter, root word mother, very much the same. And the concept is that matter is the womb within which we are gestating and growing as consciousness. The earth is our mother as a world of matter. It is a comfortable, safe place where we can gestate and learn and grow who we are and accrete light. So for this time in your journey of becoming a light being, you must envision that you are connecting to matter and then reach forward to the sun or the world of pure light and imbue that matter with light. And that is essentially what you're doing to accrete light. When people say raise your vibration, to get faster on an inner energetic metabolic level with more light, with more consciousness-based information, you are moving at a faster rate. So you're like, Aurora, what does that mean? Like, are you driving at like 59 miles an hour on the highway instead of 25 miles an hour on the highway? No, like I'm not talking about how fast I drive my car with four wheels, when I'm whatever driving to the grocery store. I'm talking about my inner metabolism. So, for example, your energetic metabolism of how fast you can consciously process something that you perceive. Like you get information, you ingest it, you have to process it, you have to learn it. How fast you are moving inside is essentially how fast you can perceive and process something. And same with emotions. When you have an emotional experience, how fast you're moving inside has to do with how fast you can process and enzymatically unlock the lesson to be learned in the emotional experience. So let's just do a little demo right now while that like sparkle of light is still bouncing off of that car out there. How do we do sun gazing? So the first thing is when I do this, I do create a Merkaba around myself. So I put up the upward facing pyramid of specifics and the downward facing pyramid of receptivity. And I do that as a basic immune system and energetic force field so that I can even do the sun gazing. Then what I do is place the tongue on the roof of my mouth. Of course, I'm going to be talking to you, so I don't do it right now. But the key point is in your anatomy, your sinus is here under your eyes and the bridge of your nose, and the sinus is up around your eyes. These are critical light body anatomy structures that you want to fill with light. So when you send out your tendril of attention, you connect your base of your spine to the earth, and then you send out your tendril of attention to the sun, and you draw in or breathe in when you are inhaling the energy from the sun. It's active, not passive. And when you breathe in, it reminds me almost of when you are drinking a milkshake, like there's some thickness or some resistance to what you're inhaling or ingesting in. And when it comes inside of you, you feel it go into your sinuses up here, into the sinuses here, and you feel it come down your throat, and you feel it come through the throat chakra, and you feel it come through your heart. And then key point, keep your mind quiet, give it a mantra if you need to, but mind has to be quiet so that the energy can come through the daily waking intellect consciousness and come into the levels of emotional truth and deep passion. And then when you do that, you inhale many times and you inhale as much as you need to be able to feel your energy rising up. And then this is that point when you become like a sunflower. When I feel the energy rise up my chin to chin level, my face naturally tilts upward. And then this that was pointing out like this, then is now pointing up like this. And then either I jump outward through my forehead, or sometimes I go out through my forehead, up, around, back in through the back of my head, and then out through my forehead. Do what works for you and what feels right. But the key point is I go up and then slam dunk, out through here and then slam dunk. And that slam dunk is that reconnection to the sun, because the sun has sent out potentials to me as a feeler and as an experiencer. I then process those potentials and then send it back to the sun. So we'll do it. That was just my demo. Now let's do it for real. Okay. I will not be talking for a moment while I just focus on this. And I can do that many times. You can cycle as many times as you need to feel satiated. Just like having a physical meal is not just like one bite, like chomp, chew, swallow. Okay, your meal is over. Like when you do one cycle, that's almost like one bite. And you can ingest as much as you need to in terms of feeling satiated. How do you know when you're satiated? Like you just feel it. And also, so just like being tan, like if it's the wintertime and you have no melanin in your skin, then you're vulnerable to the sun. You have to get out in the sun in increments to be able to build your tan. Same thing with if you haven't been sun gazing for a long time and then you sun gaze, you have to do it in small increments and then get your light body ready for having more light inside of you. And if you're already well saturated with sunlight, then your inner metabolism is super fast and you can be like, drink, drink, drink. kapow, let's go. Like drink, 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 kapow, let's go. If you aren't that saturated, it might take more time. So I'm trying to say it varies. My own sun gazing practice has varied, and I consider myself an expert. There are some times when my sun gazing practice is very strong and where I'm like, like chomp, chomp, chomp. And then I'm like, hooray, now I'm ready to do everything I need to do. And there are other times when I feel like it's a trickle and it feels like, oh, like I need more. I need more. I'm not there yet. So this is not a one size fits all solution. And it also is different depending upon what hemisphere you're in, what time of the year it is, how much light is available to you, like so many different factors. So please always listen to your body and do what is correct. Even if you're an expert, you sometimes have to think about whether, like, you can be like, I'm an expert at being tan. But it's like, how tan are you right now? And if you haven't been in the sun for a little while and you don't have that innate protection, you have to grow some protection. That literally, when you, so now I'm doing more biological stuff, but when you are physically in the sun and you get melanin in your skin, it is at the behest of your pineal gland. Which, when we send out our tendril of attention, we are activating our pineal gland. Although we're using an esoteric apparatus in the connection to the sun, the pineal gland is the physical apparatus. And that's why this is so essential for your mitochondrial health. And a lot of people who do sun gazing report improved metabolism in their bodies, meaning more energy in your body, better digestion of your food in your body, better hormonal balance in your hormonal cycles in your body. And all of that is truthful. The melanocytes in your skin produce the melatonin, which is the shielding that your skin creates that makes you be tan, so that way you can spend more time out in the sun. And the melanin in your skin, when you have it, is also like energy in your energy banks. You have sun stored up in your skin, and it's powerful and good stuff to be able to do that. So, of course, I'm breaking through all of the cultural assertions that have been given to you from the questionable science in the past several decades that kind of diminishes the sun and says that it's not healthy to be in the sun is carcinogenic and all these different things. So, no, the sun is not innately carcinogenic, but there have been a lot of problems in our environment that have made sun exposure problematic to the experiencer. Have to recognize this. The first thing is disturbances in Earth's protective atmospheres. That's been happening due to chemical exposure in our world since at least like the 1970s, 1980s. So you're supposed to already have a shield around your whole entire planet that was diminished in the atmosphere due to some of these, like ozone depleting chemicals and stuff. That needs to be recognized. The other thing is changes in your diet, that if eating some of these processed foods, there's a real issue with seed oils making people more vulnerable to overexposure to the sun and chemical contaminants in food. And that, again, is, predating all of our present crapitudes, but still an important thing. Diet is a huge component of whether you can happily and safely be in the sun. And then the other thing is eyewear. People think that sunglasses help them protect them, but in many ways, sunglasses prevent your eyes from being able to have the full banquet of frequencies that they're supposed to be able to access and to send correct signals into your brain and pineal gland about what time of day it actually is and what your skin should actually be doing. So sunglasses do not actually help you in that much as they miscalibrate the expectation of what your body thinks it is experiencing and thinks it is receiving. And I know some people feel like they want to wear sunglasses to reduce the glare, but it actually is not that effective for you. So it's way better to wear like a hat or something with a brim that kind of blocks out the sun, so that way you're not getting too much sun in your eyes. But also, like, I wear contact lenses, and all of the contact lenses that you can buy these days, they all have like a UV protectant coating on there. And so that's actually not ideal, even though people think like UV is bad for your eyes, but it's not necessarily bad. So here's the key point. UV is not necessarily carcinogenic and is not necessarily bad for either your skin or your eyes. You must balance UV and blue light exposure with red light exposure and production of melanin. Not melanin, melatonin, because those two words sound a lot alike. So I mixed up my own self there. But you got to balance blue light with melatonin. So usually in the bedroom, you see a red light. I don't have it on right now because we're heading into much warmer weather, but Cheeky loves the red light and she loves to bask underneath it. And the red light is, again, super important for metabolic health and mitochondrial health. You have to feed your body light. And right now we have so much particulates in the atmosphere and other things that are preventing us from receiving all of our red light, including like I have incandescent bulbs in all of my stuff over here. But in most of our shops and public buildings, it's all LEDs and blue light. And whatever is the poop sun simulator, it's definitely an LED white light, bluish light, not the regular beautiful golden light from the sun. These cause imbalances. Let me just check in with Cheeky. Do you need food? We might have to give Cheeky some food. Give Cheeky some food, and then we'll talk about the imbalances in light. Brief pause. Balancing out blue light and red light. Okay. So there's nothing inherently bad, wrong, or evil about blue light. The problem about blue light coming from our electronics is that it is way out of balance with the red light that we're actually supposed to be experiencing. Red light is red, of course, like the color, and it is also infrared, which is heat. When the sun is not impeded by particulates and crapola in the atmosphere, a large proportion of the energy that we receive from the sun is non-optical light, is heat, something like 45%. When you walk in a beautiful forest where there's lots and lots of green light, or when you walk across a soccer field and there's all of that green grass, what you're actually receiving is infrared. Green plants are actually reflecting back to you red. You're like, Aurora, I'm confused. I thought this was art class. This is hard. I'm like, I know, because in the world of colors, what you have to comprehend is that if I hold up something that is, well, I don't have something that is 100% green. I don't want to confuse you. Here. My beautiful teacup is every color but green. It is actually reflecting the green back to you, and it is absorbing all of the other colors. The reason it appears green is because it is every color but green. When you are in these aspects of nature where there's all of that beautiful green from photosynthesis, what you're actually receiving is a huge amount of infrared. That is what's actually bouncing back to you. Okay, so don't worry if that, because I kind of got a huh when I checked in with you guys telepathically. You were a little bit like, huh? So don't focus on it too much. Infrared and red light help to encourage the production of melatonin in the body. So again, your pineal gland produces three main hormonal type of chemicals, DMT, but only when you're getting born or dying, not as a disco drug. Melanin, which is what makes your skin look tan when you go in the sun, and melatonin. And melatonin is much, much more than just the sleep chemical that tells you when you're feeling drowsy and it's time for you to go to sleep. Melatonin is actually a protectant. It protects membranes. So it protects the cell membrane, it protects the mitochondrial membrane, it protects the nuclear membrane. Melatonin is also used for cell repair. In your body, when you have one cell that is nice and healthy, and then this cell is like a mushed up, deformed cell that got injured, like maybe it got bruised or something like that, this healthy cell will create a melatonin bridge, and it will send over melatonin and healthy mitochondria to the diseased cell so that this guy can get to be healthy again. So melatonin is an absolutely essential aspect of cellular protection and cellular healing. It is not by accident that in our world, where you have very many things that are anti-life, some of the things are the particulates in the atmosphere that have been not optically, but using particulates blocking out infrared. There's been a shielding around your planet. So on the one hand, you have the diminishing of certain natural protections that should be in the atmosphere, blocking out excessive frequencies that would be harming or burning or carcinogenic frequencies that your skin would create, skin cancers in response to. But on the other hand, more recently, like within the past 10 years, with the aerosols in the atmosphere that you can actually see that are emitted by different forms of craft in the sky, it blocks out infrared. And I have my own proposals that are presumptive, but I think that it blocks out infrared because I think infrared severely interferes with the functionality of this stuff that creates a false light network inside of the body. And I think that infrared fries that stuff and overwhelms its optical communications inside of your body, the false light network. So they block out infrared from the natural world of the sky and the sun. And also, this is why incandescent bulbs were made illegal in a lot of places. It wasn't just for energy efficiency. And my state of California, where I live, they made them fully illegal here. So I gotta get my light bulbs on the down low, but I don't have any LED lights or anything like that in my house. I use only the old-fashioned incandescent bulbs, which, yes, produce a yellowish orange light. So in all of my videos, you can kind of see like the my face or my skin looks a lot more like yellowish orange, not pure white, and also produces heat. And that helps your body to produce melatonin. Not all melatonin is created by the pineal gland. A significant amount of melatonin is actually produced by the cells themselves. Okay. So the melatonin that you produce at night for you to go to sleep is from your pineal gland. And it's important for you to, reduce blue light. You can wear the blue light glasses and other things, blue light blocking glasses to be able to protect your pineal gland. But also what you need is to feed your body with infrared. So here are some sources of infrared. I already mentioned the pristine sun, incandescent light bulbs, also candle light, lamp light, sauna, infrared heating pads. And so if you have access to a sauna, do it. And the people that live in the far northern countries are very smart people because they just made sauna a part of their culture in order to get through times when there's literally not enough optical light, like in the wintertime. So it is a normal thing. Like, of course, like several times a week, you go to sauna and you absorb the infrared into your body. So how does it help mitochondrial health? It helps to lower the viscosity of the super purified water that your mitochondrial little, they're like little jet engines that are in there have to move through. When your body is cold and there's not enough infrared, the body has higher levels of inner viscosity, and it means it makes the motors have to work that much faster to kind of spin within that atmosphere. So infrared absolutely helps to encourage your mitochondrial health. And in terms of your retinas, infrared and melatonin help your retinas to be healthy. So what is supposed to happen is in the beginning of the day, the sunlight is heavily weighted towards the red-orange end of the spectrum. Because if this is like Earth's atmosphere is here, and here's the sun coming up and starting to rise over here. It has to travel, the light has to travel through all of these layers of atmosphere, and it scatters the blue light. Now we are in art class still, but you still have to know it's kind of science class because blue light has a shorter wavelength and it scatters more easily. And the red frequencies have the longer wavelength and they travel further. So when the sunlight at dusk and at dawn is moving laterally through many layers of atmosphere, it scatters the blue light and the sky looks reddish, pinkish, and orange. And that is when you should do your sun gazing, and you should bathe your retinas in that reddish, pinkish, orange light because it helps to generate the protective chemicals such as melatonin. When you have an abundance of melatonin in your skin and in your retinas, and then the sun goes up here, and this is high noon, and the light is coming straight down, and it makes the sky look blue, and you're getting a lot of blue light into your body. It's okay, because you've got all this protection from your melatonin. And your body is like, oh, okay, great, that's fine. You're not going to get cellular damage because you've got all of the wonderful melatonin to protect your cells. And then at the end of your day, you do more of the sun gazing, you get more of the wonderful protective melatonin. So key point here is you want to have melatonin in your body for much, much more than just the 5 minutes before you go to sleep. You want to limit your amount of exposure to blue light because that blocks out your natural melatonin production, and you will probably want to supplement your melatonin. If you supplement your melatonin, you will not become addicted. You will continue to produce your own natural melatonin. You will do that under the right circumstances in a pristine environment, of course. And I forgot what was the final thing. When you take melatonin, only a tiny percentage of it is absorbed if you take it orally. So if you take melatonin pills, you really only get 3%. If you only take 3 milligrams of melatonin orally, like you're getting a tiny percentage, you're getting hardly anything. And you need to have 300 milligrams in your body to really protect your retinas and your skin from overexposure. Okay. So I do all sorts of good things. I do, first of all, the infrared light with Miyajiki. And then I also put powdered melatonin into skin moisturizing cream. And I put that on at night before I go to bed. And then I also do topical melatonin supplements. I found these good patches because when you absorb through your skin, a lot more of it goes into your actual body. So, like I'm outside a lot and I do sun gazing and all those things a lot. And let's talk about, so sunglasses, not that optimum in truth. How about sunblock or skin protectant? You need it. It is good, especially like if you live in Sweden and it's the Arctic Circle, like you probably don't need sunblock, definitely not in the winter. But if you live in Southern California, you will get fried if you do not wear something to protect your skin. So you definitely, like, let's say you live in Australia, some of these extremely sunny places, Arizona, you need skin protectant. And you can use natural skin protectants, like there's like coconut oil, carrot seed oil. You can use things that are particulates that are like titanium dioxide and zinc, but you need to make sure that they are not nano-sized particles. So as long as they are not nano, if they're nano, they absorb through your skin, they go into your bloodstream, they kind of junk up the place. So I found a couple of different, after a lot of research, good health and beauty products that contain non-nano titanium dioxide, and that's just basically white, in inert powder, and then skin protectant oils. And I put that on, and I have, stuff on my face, and I have stuff on my body, and so I do a lot, and also I put in the morning also melatonin powder with skin cream on my face. Then I also put mineral sunscreen on my face. Then in the summertime, I also wear a giant hat. You guys might have seen me in pictures. And also, you want to limit your exposure in the middle of the day. All right. This is Aurora's safe sun gazing and safe sun exposure, because I want each one of us to look at the sun as a super nourishing, amazing source of life force and positive, wonderful energy that helps us to grow. But please also comprehend that you don't live in a pristine environment, and also you don't want to get overexposed. So think about it also like if you've ever done gardening, when you plant your little seeds, you plant them in the shade. Because if you plant them in the middle of the sun, in the middle of the garden, they will get fried. They're way too delicate. And you have to think of yourself as a little seedling that's just starting out. So you start yourself in low levels of light exposure and you have, coverage. And then as you grow your light body, then at a certain point, you can be fully exposed to the sun and you will not be fried. You will be like a big, giant, strong sunflower or a tomato plant or something that can be in the middle of the garden and thrive with all of that light. Okay. And all of this, like I've talked to you guys many times about what was my experience like in the world of Atlantis. And of course, we all lived on sunlight at all times in that world. And we were inundated and constantly given this wonderful food of life and of consciousness. And we had to grow our light bodies. So we still had to start off small, get more of the light inside of it, get faster and faster and faster. The process could take hundreds of thousands of years. And then eventually you ascend after having eaten an enormous amount of light, after having become hugely intelligent with an enormous amount of divine data. You then can disengage from your grounded position, touching the earth, and become just the light eater that is 100% connected to the sun at all times. So even in Atlantis, here's the earth and here's the sun circulating around. You've got daytime, nighttime, daytime, nighttime. So there was still only part of the day that we could receive light. And when you achieve your light body and grow your light body to the point that you can actually like levitate and not be on the surface of the planet, you need a lot of light all the time. You can't just be like, well, I'm going to somehow levitate with only half a day's worth of light. And then sometimes it's going to be nighttime. And what am I going to do? Like, you literally don't have an option. You have to follow the sun. You are tethered in a very positive way to the sun. So here's the sun, and here's the city of light, and the whole entire thing revolves around the earth. And the city of light is constantly connected to the sun, constantly exposed, constantly receiving. That's what it's like to be, I guess what you would say, an angelic person or an ascended master. And then at a certain point, you have so much light inside of you and your whole entire organism as a spore of light consciousness that you can disengage from this particular star and you can engage with the entire stellar network. And that is what I did or slash do as Aurora, my, light entity consciousness presence. All right. So, and that's in ideal circumstances. That's in a perfect world. So key takeaways are that it takes time to be able to grow your light body and accrete enough light to ascend even in a perfect world. And here you have so many things that are fighting against you. In the restaurant of light, you have very slow service. The waiters and waitresses do not bring the food very fast. When they bring it, it's small portions. And then also the spoon or whatever like has a hole in it. You're like trying to get the soup to your mouth and it's dribbling out. Everything is making it very, very difficult for you to be able to actually receive all of the light that you need. And all of that is calculated and very, very intentional. So that's why it's super poignant for me to look back on those videos from like 10 years ago. It used to be, even within this world, a lot easier to get all of the light that you needed. And now it is super, super difficult. That's why one of my jobs as Flying Rainbow Lasagna is to get out of the super difficult bad restaurant with bad service and get directly to the wholesalers, directly to the restaurant supply service, get a lot of energy and calories, and then come back and be like, oh, I got enough for me and for all of you guys too, and send it out to you. So we did sun gazing. Now let's talk about flying rainbow lasagna with the sun. Again, before doing any of these things, I put up the Merkaba. And the Merkaba is the protective force field and also the manifestation force field. Protection against entities and negative outcomes that are not intentional, and then also manifestation in the balance of your specific desires and what you are receptive to, or the desires that you have as an individual versus the desires that the larger context of consciousness has for you. So with all of these things, first you put up your Merkaba force field. All right. Then you would want to eat the sun in order to have the energy to do the flying rainbow lasagna. But you're like, Aurora, I don't, the order of operations doesn't work because the truth is I can't even eat the sun because there's so much junk and so many obstacles in the way. And so what I'm going to have to do is somehow flying rainbow lasagna up and over these obstacles to even get to the store, to get the energy to be able to do the sun gazing. So that's a lot of where I come in, that I'm like, oh yeah, I can get to the store and I can give all of you guys some energy so that way you've got the energy to get your lasagna moving and get yourself to the store as well. And then this is exactly like building a small business. I've used this example in class many times. I've built many small businesses. It's so funny, like to think of myself in that way because I'm not all about business and commodification. But I've been working within the world of commodification for a long time. So you have like my dress business, my broccoli business, with all these different things. What you do is you start off and you make what you can with the resources that you have, and then as soon as you get profit, you don't just go off and spend it. You have to buy more equipment. And in this case, your business is your inner eye and your tendril of attention and your pineal gland. Those are critical aspects of your light body. Like if you're a baker and you're making pies, that's the equivalent of your oven so that you can make stuff happen. And what you want to do is invest everything that you can as you're building your small business and getting your momentum going in this apparatus. First, you begin with the love tone and building energy to the level of unconditional love. That's basic meditation. But once you've got enough energy and you've mastered that, that's like a plateau that the rest of your higher faculties rest upon. So you have this whirling energy force field that's at this level, but then you have a whirling energy force field that is your throat chakra of authenticity and communication, and your inner eye with your tendril of attention, and then also your crown chakra, which is your kind of like your guide, your librarian that guides you as to where you need to go. And all of those things are crucial apparatus in the small business that you're building. And so when you connect with the sun through your third eye, you get some energy and some information. And essentially what it's doing is giving you a customized series of curriculum that or teachings that brings you to the concept of how you can not need to eat food. So right now we're in the time when we do need to eat food, and I teach all of you to celebrate the eating of food and to be in gratitude and to bless your food and to recognize on a cognitive level that your food is made of light when you are actually eating it. And also, like, don't be super strict with yourself. Any one of us can have times when we're eating in a distracted way, maybe because you're busy and you have to eat in your car on the way to go someplace, or maybe your life is busy like mine. Sometimes I have to do my emails and I'm like eating my food, chomp, 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 and typing on emails at the same time. I know I shouldn't do that. Just recognize I'm not a perfect person. But ideally, what we want to do is eat mindfully, where we set aside time just to feel the sensations of the light coming into us when we eat physical food. And then those that light that you're able to refine out of that experience of physical food is also the basis for reality creation. Like once you just recognize, you're just going to get like a big aha moment. You're like, wait a minute, all of this is about making stuff happen in reality. You're like, wait a minute, I'm the factory. I make everything. This is you envisioning like your own realization. I make everything happen. Like, of course, they'd want to hack and hijack my ability to make everything happen because they're stupid, uncreative crap heads. They can't make stuff happen, but I'm a super amazing superhero connected to the sun and the stars. I can make things happen. This is what I want you guys to think about yourself. All right. You recognize why they would want to prevent your light body from growing and why they would want to prevent you from having knowledge about your light body and why they would want to prevent the levels of direct empowerment that happen when you can make things happen with your mind. So your pineal gland, your inner eye, your tendril of attention, these are critical infrastructure in your small business, which will one day be like a giant corporate conglomerate. And you'll be a billionaire with your pineal gland, like, shining over here. The ability to create reality, to project reality. Just like when you have a movie projector in the movie theater, it needs light to project reality. In order for you to project reality of like events that you experience in the world, you need to have light inside of you. Just like chickens need light to be able to lay their eggs and create the potentials for life that we eat with scrambled eggs in the morning. So you need to have enough light to be able to project these reality structures. Let's talk about how you do flying rainbow lasagna with the sun. So first of all, you recognize that this shape is fractal microcosm of the sun's heliosphere, and that the thing that both of these shapes have in common is this central convergence point, which is singularity or just singularity. It is the infinity point. It is the zeroth dimension, and there's only one in reality. If this is the logic for your cognitive mind, if I know that there's only one of these in reality, and I know that this shape is within me, and it's more than one, you have many, many chakras and many subchakras, and every single one of your nuclei has this central convergence point. You have trillions of these inside of you, but you really only have one. I have this inside of me in all these different places, and the sun has this inside of the sun. Cognitively, I know that I therefore have the same point inside of me that the sun has inside of the sun. And when you start to really comprehend that, you recognize that there is no space between you and the sun. Instead of considering that you are here and the sun is all the way out there, it's 93 million miles away. It's so far away. It would take a very, very long time to get there if you had to, drive there in your physical car. But you don't have to drive there in your physical car. And even at the speed of light, it takes something like 8 minutes for a light beam to reach you. And I didn't get through to that part of the conversation here. Light beams are more organized than disorganized plasmas. The sun is constantly sending out possibilities, getting refined, and then coming back in. It's sending out more organized stuff than it actually is. It's in a process of learning and refinement. The light that it sends out in beams are super organized light. And yeah, it takes some amount of time for them to actually travel through space to be able to reach you. But really, because I hesitated when I said that, because I'm like, well, that's not what I teach in Path of Light, because I actually teach that it takes no time for them to reach you. So I didn't want to confuse you with that. But from the materialistic, objective point of view, it takes a certain amount of time for the light to travel to be able to actually reach you from the sun. So we'll just go with that for right now. But what I'm trying to get to is the concept that when you really know about singularity and you know that it resides within you, and you know that singularity also resides within the sun, that the sun is not distant from you and it is not external to you. These 2 points actually are 1 point and they overlap. The singularity that is within you is the same singularity that is within the sun. And it's also the same singularity that is at the core of the earth. And when you can really comprehend that, that is how you do flying rainbow lasagna. So the activity of overcoming the genetic and physical environmental obstacles between yourself and direct solar connection has to do with the recognition of singularity in you and singularity in the sun, and there being no space between these two places. When you're doing your sun gazing, and you do flying lasagna, you connect your tongue to the roof of your mouth. You do the inhalation inward through your forehead and into your body, but you also oscillate the singularity point from in here to over here, in here to over here. That's what this lasagna actually is. So you have this singularity point and this singularity point are the same singularity point. It's just oscillating in this sculpture like this. But imagine you have a giant sculpture that is 93 million miles tall. And one of the points is here in you, and one of the points up here touches on the sun. And each time you oscillate the singularity between your self state and the sun, or between your self state here as a physical human and your self state as the sun, as you begin to embody and identify with the sun, you create the waveform known as the flying rainbow lasagna. So as I'm doing my inhalation and breathing that energy into me, I'm also oscillating. And with each oscillation, it creates one of these flanges or petal shapes of the lasagna. So as I connect out in one shape, I've made one flange. As I bring that energy back to me, I then create this one down here. Then I send the energy back out. It's this one over here. Then I bring the energy back in. It's this one over here. Class, this is like Sesame Street. Let's count how many flanges there are. Starting down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And often we dance to an 8 count beat, and a lot of music is 4/4 time. And I often do this to an 8 count beat. So this is what flying rainbow lasagna-ing with the sun is like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And as you're doing that and creating that, this waveform is also rotating around like this. So that's what's happening on a macroscopic level, like your body to the body of the sun. But also, this is happening on a genetic level. I've already spoken to you about how your DNA is a bridge of light between your biological physicality presence and the potentials of time that the sun emits. When you fly rainbow lasagna with your energy field, as I'm describing it to you, you're also flying rainbow lasagna-ing with every single string of your DNA within every single one of the nuclei of your cells. So although for ease of envisionment, you can envision one point in your heart or in your third eye here being the center of how you are doing your oscillation. But please begin to know that it's actually every single one of the trillions of your cells. So imagine that I'm drawing like all of these different cells all over your whole entire body, and every cell has a nucleus inside of it, and every one of those has a flying rainbow lasagna. Every single one of those cells has its own flying rainbow lasagna that is connecting the nucleus and the DNA of your cell directly to the sun as the originator and the emanator of these time ideas. It is the ultimate in reestablishing the self-identity and the rapport that you have as the sun. So I always say, like, spoiler alert, like you are the sun, like you came from the sun. You literally made this experience for yourself. You literally have given life to or vivified your own life experience. And then you've come here and you got that implant and disconnected from divinity and from that true reality and your true nature as a light being. And all of that is part of the, I want to say, corruption and, catastrophe events surrounding Atlantis. And then you forgot all about this stuff, but you didn't really forget. Like it was energy that was not taken away from you. And now it's been a huge bootstrapping adventure for you to grow your small business so that you can grow your light body, so that you can remember that you're made of pure light, so you can be a part of the sun again and be one with the sun, and not just the sun, but the entire stellar network. So the Merkaba is ancient envisionment capacity that comes from Atlantis. So that's something that clearly I didn't invent. And the sun and the stars, like this is also stuff that predates me as Flying Rainbow Lasagna. But Flying Rainbow Lasagna is my tool or way to be more, have greater levels of capacitation so you can do more, so you can do all the things that you're supposed to be able to do, because there were a lot of unfair things that were holding you back from being able to do the things that you should be able to do very naturally. So this is something that does not go against any other previously established cosmic laws. And it is a capacitation. I want to say enable, but enable has a bad connotation to it. It makes you capable to be able to do stuff that you should already be capable of doing. So let's say if there's a road has been destroyed in your town, you should be able to just drive down Main Street. And like, yeah, I want to, whatever, drive to the grocery store. It's at the end of Main Street. But there's this giant problem here, whatever, maybe a water main break. And then I can't drive on the road. What do? I'm going to starve to death. I can't get to the grocery store. So what you have to do is jump up and over the water main break and to get to the grocery store. This is how you can jump up and over the obstacle to get to the grocery store that is known as the sun. But also you can envision it. If I grab my rainbow scarf. Hold on. It's a very long scarf. This was made for me by one of my wonderful students years ago. Well, let's pretend this is Main Street. And wait, here's your car over here. And here's the sun, which is the grocery store. And then where my chin is, there's some obstacle and you can't get there. Of course, you can jump up and over. It's very effective. But you know what else you can do? You can fold Main Street so that the grocery store is 0 space away from you. It is no space. It is no space away from you. We now have you and the grocery store that close together. And that's the ultimate of what you are doing with the transformation of your perception as you are doing this Flying Rainbow Lasagna oscillation with every cell of your body and with your overarching macroscopic energy field. What you're really doing is creating a no space between you and the sun, a complete melding of yourself with the truthful nature of the sun as an emitter of light. And you become information. The sun is pure information, is connected to a larger cognitive structure that is the mind of God, and you become pure information and you connect directly to the mind of God. And this is all about how you can not be troubled by all of these things that have been inhibitors to your connection. Initially, again, it was genetic inhibitors as to why it was so hard for you to grow your light body. And some of these inhibitors are cognitive structures that I had to implant, is not a good word, teach or offer alternative and better cognitive structure. So the verbalized mind, it's like it's always talking and saying stupid, like chatty crap. But also it sometimes says stuff and articulates stuff that is hugely disempowering to you. And it might have different features about like diminishing your sense of being divine, or telling you that you're not allowed to be God, or that you're not allowed to act like God, or who are you to create reality? Like there's a lot of stuff that's also in there at that level of ego implantation, that these are blockades to you claiming your ability to co-create and manifest. And that was just Flying Rainbow Lasagna I invented to respond to those already existing traditional old-fashioned obstacles to growing your light body. But then we have these technological obstacles to growing the light body that have been very, very troubling, and they've been very, very difficult to supersede. So the flying rainbow lasagna can still do it. I still do it all the time. It's just very, very difficult. Again, just summarizing and saying it again in other ways. So whenever I have open window of clarity and I'm able to oscillate, get to the sun, get the energy, get the ideas and information and inspiration, then one of the things that I do is I oscillate to other people that are in the world. So first I do oscillations between me and the sun. Then I'm like, oh, that's great. I'm so full. I have so much great energy and so many great ideas. Now I'm ready to share them with others because maybe you couldn't get to the grocery store. So then what I do on a genetic level is oscillate myself between myself and you guys, or a squirrel or a dog. And I give out these light information groceries to other people and organisms. And that gives you the small business loan that you need to be able to grow your own tendril of attention and get to the sun and get out to the grocery store. So a large part of what I do in this class is transmission of light. Some of it is through the verbal words that I share with you, but some of it is through just the actual presence of energy that I contain. So the words are like at a surface level up here, but many people have reported to me like they just like to watch these lessons that I share with you, which are of course understandably like many hours long, and you might not always be listening to every word, or sometimes you might even like doze off or drift off or have a reverie and not be paying attention. That's all fine. I'm actually very, very pleased and happy to hear about that, because what it means is that you're tuning into the deeper levels of transmission that I can bring in, the deeper groceries that are nonverbal, that are pretty much just purely energetic. And that's who I am beyond words. So that's who I am in my body presence. That's who I am as DNA architecture, which is doing all sorts of things while I'm standing here or walking here and being on a video with you guys, and the energy that is within the words. So like words are just like a cardboard box that carries meaning, and empty words are just the box. That's like if you just whatever read a word on the computer, or if you just get synthetic telepathy, a word beamed into your mind, it's just a word. Again, it might say like umbrella or cat or whatever, and you're like, I know what these things are, but it doesn't have any real meaning ascribed to it. But real telepathy is a cardboard box filled with stuff that's meaning. And what my transmission directly from the sun is, what my groceries is just meaning with no box. That's it, no cardboard box. So I didn't even bother to wrap the present. I just got the energy from the sun and then send it directly out to you. And what does that feel like to me when I do it? It just feels like a very, very fast oscillation of my light body outward. And key point is that it's in these very, very specific patterns, harmonic, divinely intelligent patterns. Because you guys have to know, let me drink some hydration here. A word order matters. Sorry, just making sure, because I have something in exactly 1 hour. So I have to make sure that I don't go too over time in class. The order of operations in math matters. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. No math. Okay, let's do English and grammar in English class. Let's say the order of words in English sentence matters in terms of conveying meaning. So harmonic, divine intelligence patterns have to do with the order that I'm connecting people with different thought patterns and ideas, or pure light, and making sure that I'm presenting those ideas or giving them to people in the correct way, kind of like when you do a recipe. That's the best way I can say it. So in order to successfully make food that is actually edible and tastes good, you must follow a recipe, and recipe is the ultimate order of operations. Like first you crack the eggs open, then you put butter in the pan, then you put the eggs in the pan, then you scramble them up. Like that is the key order of operations that you're going to do for your recipe. And of course, if you didn't follow the correct order, then you would have, eggshells all in your pan and it would taste disgusting. Or if you're trying to bake bread or something like that, like if you don't get the order of operations correct, like you will just have gross stuff. You will not have something that is truly nourishing and accessible on a biological level. So same thing. When I do these light patterns, everything that I do that is lasagna, it's not just a sense of going hyperdimensional. It's not just a sense of comprehending the profundity of singularity and how singularity resides inside of you and inside of many other things that appear to be distant in time and space, but are actually overlapping in one central convergence point. It is also the harmonic perfection of doing these things in the correct math or the correct grammar of how they are supposed to be done. And I didn't make any of that up. So I mean, unless if I dilate my personality to be like the ultimate God creator, then I'm like, oh yeah, I did that as the ultimate God creator, but I'm not that yet. So that's a little bit premature for me to claim that identity. So let me say that I follow these patterns in the same way that like a good musician who's going to Juilliard is learning the patterns of Mozart and is like, yeah, I am playing the patterns according to a super genius who wrote this song. So what I'm doing is playing the patterns of reality according to the super genius who created this series of harmonic patterns and languaging or information transfer. That is the harmonic foundation of the cosmic infrastructure. And so I perceive that cosmic infrastructure and then I willingly conform to it. I'm like, these are the notes, this is how I'm supposed to play it, this is how I do this. So it's a big position of responsibility. Like if you're a chef in the restaurant, you have to make the recipes in the right way and then send out the food to the people so it tastes good. So when I get extra groceries, I'm not even just being like avocado for you, tomato for you, throwing out random calories in random directions. I'm actually very, very specific about what I'm sending out, in what direction, to whom, and for what purpose, because all of it adds up to a giant social recipe. These pictures that I showed you of the earth and the sun, I hope that it really conveys to you that your journey of ascension is an individual journey of attainment, but it also happens within the context of your social collective, your whole entire planet, including cats and dogs and fluffy bunnies, and of course, the whole entire world of light and pure consciousness. So the things that you are experiencing are unique and important to you, and they are also within the context of what others are learning that are unique and important to them. And that's also what it is to be a musician in a symphony, where you have to play your own notes and know that what you're doing is correct, but also you have to sound good with everyone else. This is the essence of what it is to balance out the responsibilities you have towards yourself as an individual and the responsibilities you have towards your community. Now, of course, I already mentioned, what if your community is insane? What if they're all bad musicians? Then you don't have a responsibility to conform to them because you're like, these guys are all out of tune and playing the wrong notes. And that would be the equivalent of out of tune and playing the wrong notes if people or organisms or society is doing something that is unhealthy for the body, makes them die or self-destruct. You don't have to conform to that. Big stuff. If they are doing stuff that makes them not conform to these harmonic patterns and is self-destructive, you don't have to conform. That's what I'm talking about. You don't have to conform to a society that is doing things that, if the majority is reducing its longevity and its ability to continue to move through time. So you have to begin to create a boundary in your behavior. Can't just be like, oh, well, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Everyone here is self-destructing. I will also self-destruct. You have to protect yourself on a funny Aurora story level. You probably have heard this one from me already. Like when I first came here into the world, I had no concept at all of human nutrition, what is good for the body, what is not good for the body. And I definitely did the thing like when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So this is like 2003 to 2005 or so. And I worked at many like entry level positions. I was literally like a 2-year-old in your world. I had no idea how anything worked, and I had no idea about food ingredients. And I worked at a lot of these entry level positions with some people that are not at the higher end of the socioeconomic spectrum. And everybody like smoked a lot of tobacco, and also drank giant cups of coffee from the gas station, like gas station coffee, and not only one cup, but like 3 cups a day, and ate like fast food and a lot of low nutrition stuff. And I did that like the people around me did for a very brief amount of time. And then I learned like, you cannot do this to the body. I'm like, this is not how you're allowed to treat a body. Like I thought like, oh, like, because they sell stuff in the world, like this is edible. You should do that. I'm like, this is not edible. You should not eat this, and you should not smoke this, and you definitely should not drink this stuff over here. So yeah, I had to learn. I had to learn about all of those things. And then I became a lot more selective. So again, just I came here in total innocence, and I was like, oh, some things in the world you're supposed to eat it. And then I learned like some things in the world, not everything in the world is something you're actually supposed to eat. Many things are things that you're not actually supposed to eat. And so that was a critical learning point for me. And then I had to learn how to have boundaries and protect myself and not to eat or ingest the things that were really anti-life and that didn't build my light body and maybe even actively corroded my light body. Okay. So you guys have to comprehend that that's part of how this very, inverted and unfair world that you're in is kind of shaped. You can't just take things at face value and follow all the insanities of the people around you. You must exert your own willpower and advocate for yourself and do what you know and feel is right for your own body. And so, yeah, I did that for many, many years. And then also for a long time, I learned like, they were polluting the food supply and that there were many food substances that were sold as food that you want to avoid just because they're starting to pollute them. And so then had to become very, very selective. And now I'm super selective about the things that I eat and my sources of where I get them and what I ingest into the body. And I'm sure you can comprehend why, like, I'm avoiding genetically modified products. I'm avoiding glyphosate, and I'm avoiding other things that are, again, going to diminish the activity of the light body. But if you didn't have a polluted food supply, I mean, the joy of growing your light body is not only eating food from the sun, it's also eating food from the world. Like when you eat avocados, they contain information. And you should be like, hooray, like here's a nice, beautiful avocado. It's full of fresh information that a tree just made for me. And I'm going to eat it. And that avocado is the result of a tree having a conversation with the sun and going back and forth with the sun for like a year or more. Or an orange. Here where I live, there's a lot of orange trees, and so people have them all in their yards, and people will leave like a basket of oranges like out. Like you can just take them for free. Like we have so many of them here, people just gift them away to everyone else. So I eat a lot of oranges, and oranges can take like 18 months to grow to be able to be like ready for you to actually eat from the moment that it gets whatever a flower to the moment that you can pick it as a piece of fruit. And that's amazing. 18 months of a tree having a conversation with the sun to be able to make this beautiful orange golden ball of light that you can then eat and have that light come inside of you. Like you have to start to think about food in that way. So when food is not polluted and when food is safe, food becomes a wonderful fun adventure where you are taking part in the entire community of the ecosystem of alive beings that are here, that all have DNA, that are all experiencing time, that are all propelling themselves through time, and that this begins to become your collective elevation into higher levels. Like imagine if you went into the world of pure consciousness and you were able to meet and interact with the essence of the tree that grew the oranges, and the tree would be like, hey, I know you, like you ate parts of my body, and be like, hug me, thank you for giving me parts of your body. Like it would be the most beautiful positive thing. It wouldn't be sad at all. The tree would be celebrating and be like, thank you, I'm so happy that you ate parts of my body. And you'd be like, thank you for giving me your body parts, they were delicious. It's very beautiful. Okay, so questions, comments, we're going to wrap it up soon. Let me make sure that I go through my notes. Hold on a second, to make sure that I got to all of the most important things for today's sharing. As always, I'll encourage people. watch the whiteboards that are part of the original curriculum because, I get conversational and tell stories here in class. And even though I'm talking for many hours, I don't always get to everything that is critical. And you can really absorb so much from taking the time to go back into those whiteboards. So let me just scroll through and make sure that I did this correctly. So here's another big one that I had to emphasize: the solar wind, the penumbra of energy that's coming off of the sun. It's not just energy, it's consciousness. The sun is a giant ball of consciousness in the sky. It's a giant plasma being in the sky. As you are growing your light body, you're becoming a plasma being. The sun is also a plasma being, and it is emitting thoughts, not just optical light. And as soon as you can really embody and embrace that truth, you're like, I am in a world that is the end result of a series of thoughts that the sun star is thinking. Yes. And then every day when you have a rapport with the sun, you are participating in its thought structures, but it's not just a dictator saying, now you will do this. You add your flavor to everything that's happening. And that's a big part of what sun gazing is, when you are able to give real time feedback to the sun as the creator or the artist who invented all of this that you're experiencing, and to be able to say, or the chef, here's what I'm experiencing and ingesting. Here's how it's affecting me in my life. Here's what you need to know. The implantation of the verbal mind meant that for many people, the solar rapport was only established upon death, that they would go through their whole entire life without ever really connecting to the sun. And then on the moment of death, all of that energy would flow back in consciousness back to the sun. And the sun would be like, I'm very mad because I wish you had told me this earlier, because I would have changed things. I would have sent out corrective timelines. That means that you wouldn't have died. So when we talk about the eternal self and getting onto that timeline that is in perfect alignment over here, a lot of that is about having the rapport of being able to have groceries from the sun's support and elevation from the sun and protection from the sun. That if you send back an SOS where you're like, everything is not okay, either I'm sick or I'm starving or I'm about to drive over a cliff, help me, help me, help me. The sun gets that information and is like, oh, SHIT, I better do something to help this tiny fractal microcosmic part of myself so that it can actually ascend and actually go on its journey where I'm supposed to go. So it has felt maybe like you have been abandoned or overlooked, or you've been super hyper self-reliant from the levels of disconnection that we've experienced, like not only through verbalism, creating a disconnect on the spiritual esoteric level, but also through literal disconnection of biochemistry and from pollution and electromagnetic pollution in our world that has made it very difficult for you to be connected to the sun and the stars. And of course, none of that is ideal in the way that it's really supposed to be. It's supposed to be a dynamic feedback loop where the sun can know and sense what's going on with you and is totally delighted to change and upgrade realities depending upon what you need. Sometimes when people are on the verge of dying, they have a near-death experience and they finally connect with the sun. And literally what is happening is they have to get out of their body because their body and their DNA is such an inhibitory consciousness antithesis force field that when they're in their body, they can't actually talk to the sun. They get out of their body, unfortunately, again, due to like extreme trauma or illness or something like that. And then they're able to talk to the sun. And then that's usually how the conversation goes. Like, I'm so great. It's so great to see you. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so sad that you are like, in an emergency hospital ward and that your blood is flowing out of you and you will die soon if I don't do something about this. And so that's often like the business meeting that's happening a little bit too late, but the sun comes through and is like, okay, look, do some fast, fancy footwork here. We're going to get you back in your body and we're going to change the timeline and make things better. But of course, that's an emergency, a crisis. And ideally, you prevent the crisis by incrementally shifting your pathway away from this, the membrane of death, away from the membrane of death, and towards viable timelines that continue onward to eternity. And your journey of shifting towards eternal and viable timelines is directly analogous to the sun shifting onto eternal and viable timelines. That you really are not different from the sun, you really are the same organism. You're really part of the entire world of light, all of which is connected. And when you recognize with and identify with yourself as all light everywhere, then you're like responsible to all light everywhere and also helped and guided and nourished and protected by all light everywhere. So you've been in a very, very difficult situation that has made you feel, possibly I'm projecting upon you, very isolated or alone, wondering if there's anyone out there, up there, and maybe disappointed with the sun and solar activity. But please know, like the sun is you. You love yourself. The sun is an ally and a friend. It's not fair what's happened either in antiquity or more recently to try to split you guys apart. And you've had to effort quite a lot to be able to come back into rapport. This third eye and the apparatus, the esoteric force field that it creates, is both a lens and a filter. And that's important also in recognizing that as you grow your force field around your third eye and around your head, that is like getting tan. It helps to protect you from overexposure to the sun. It helps to reflect away excessive thought forms that aren't appropriate food for you and to focus in thought forms and reality forms that are what you're actually supposed to be in alignment with. So when you look at a star, there is literally one beam of light, take the path of light class, that comes from that star to your eye. It is intending to go to your eye. When you think about it from science's point of view, science is like, oh, stars are dead, stupid things in the sky, and they just spew light everywhere. And then you sit in your lawn chair at night and you look up at the stars. You happen to get a photon that goes inside of your eye randomly from some star somewhere else. Isn't that weird? And I'm like, no, stars very specifically see you and know that you're in your lawn chair. And they're like, I am going to send a photon to that guy's eyeball right now. Kapow, send it to your eyeball. And that is meant for your eyeball. And it doesn't go to anybody else's eyeball. And please know that the sun or the stars are also like, I'm going to send one photon to your eyeball, but then I'm going to send a photon to this squirrel's eyeball over here. And then we're going to send a photon to this plant's leaf over here. Like they are very specific. Mozart did not write a bunch of notes by accident. He was not just like smashing the keyboard and then being like, I guess that's music. He wrote the notes very specifically. And the sun and the stars similarly emit their photons very, very specifically so that way it will come into your eye and will be exactly at the right trajectory. Like literally, like does it come in your eye like this? Does it come in your eye like this? And it contains exactly the right nourishment and information that you need at that moment on your journey. So it is a totally customized viewpoint. Each one of us has a totally customized, unique viewpoint, and we are being cared for and nourished by the entire realm of pure coherent light. And having that filter and lens around your head and eyes is essential because it helps you to block out any of the information that is not relevant to you and to not be overwhelmed by information that you are not ready to receive yet. So you have to be like, a little baby. Babies aren't ready to eat a giant steak yet. Like you have to give them applesauce because they're not ready. They don't know how to eat a steak. You have to teach them. They have to grow. And same thing with you and your mind and your consciousness. There are really, really high levels of concepts that are like eating a steak that you're not ready for. You have to eat the concepts that are digestible to you at your present level of development and then move to the more complex and difficult to digest forms of nourishment. And you have to get everything ready in your body for that, including your ability to digest or break down or make accessible these complex forms of nourishment. So I wanted to like a little bit of a, aside and not waste too much time. But in that movie, Defending Your Life, that I sometimes, talk about here in class, in the afterlife realm, Judgment City, where these souls are, there are, of course, the people who are humans who are kind of like at your level and they don't know everything about the world. And then when they go there to Judgment City, it's like, oh, you can eat, drink, and be merry, like eat whatever you want. You go get fat, and there's an endless supply of food. So they're all enjoying eating like pies and pasta and everything good. And they have advocates, like kind of like cosmic lawyers. And the cosmic lawyers are using an enormous percentage of their brain. And when he looks at the food that the cosmic lawyer is eating, he's like, oh, that looks terrible. That looks like SHIT. And he's like, here, want to try some? He's like, no, this dude tastes like SHIT too. And the guy who's the cosmic lawyer, he's laughing. He's like, yes, this is not something that you could eat or find digestible at your level of development. You would have to use a greater percentage of your brain to be able to find this to be delicious or accessible or nourishing food for you. That is the truth about some of these higher levels of consciousness, energy, information, and light. That some of it is profoundly complex on the level of like math problems that you just could not even comprehend. And some of it is something that you might even find repellent in your present form or distasteful. And you need to really grow a lot to be able to be like, oh, like that's good stuff. And I really want to eat that. And my body knows what to do with that. So, for right now, eat applesauce. It's like, babies get easily digested stuff, and that's good. I never want you guys to feel condescended to. If I say you're an infant of consciousness, you're a baby and you should eat applesauce, be like, hooray, I'm a baby and I eat applesauce. Yay, good. Exactly. And then, your solar parent, little by little, will introduce foods to you that are a little bit more challenging. And then eventually you'll eat a full steak. Like, like you shouldn't give a baby a jalapeno pepper. That's not right for them. And then you shouldn't give a baby like a piece of whatever Roquefort cheese. Like that's not right for them either. But all of those things, strange flavors, condiments, and other things that add spice to the world, like you have to prepare your digestive tract. You're just not ready for it yet. So where you are in your level of development, you have to be a small business owner who's busy bootstrapping and creating your force field of protection around your face and your head. And that also is a big part in like creating reality structures and events. It's not just about food that you're eating, like an avocado. An avocado is a light body structure. We're talking about events in reality. So I don't want to set any of you up for like failure in your life to say like, oh yeah, you have to eat bad stuff that tastes like SHIT. But if you're smart and advanced enough that these events are actually really great, but it is kind of along those lines. So just don't misinterpret or take things out of context, but it's kind of like the very things that would seem to be unpleasant, repellent, and gross experiences if you're not prepared for them. When you achieve greater levels of context and awareness and advancement in your consciousness, they will become delightful to you. But you should not try to access them prematurely. You really do have to allow the developmental process to happen. So having the inner teacher means that you have a customized pathway to achieving those higher levels of consciousness. Just as you have a specific photon that is sent to you in the night sky from a particular star to go inside of your eye and give you a thought in your mind. Same thing with all of the series of events that are beamed into your mind so that way you can learn what it is to be a light eater. So here, I'll talk about this and I'll kind of wrap things up on this level. Becoming a light eater is not simply an eating disorder or choosing not to eat. And that's really, really critical for you to know, because many people in this world are like, all the food is polluted. Food is expensive. I don't really like it very much. I think I'm just going to become a light eater. And I understand where you're coming from. But really becoming a light eater is to renounce, not like a beggar, but really to renounce like a royalty, like a person who has had access to everything and you have had enough of all of those things. And you very, very happily and joyously go into a world of eating pure frequency as opposed to eating physical food. So it's not simply saying, well, today I decide to be a light eater. Like I'm not eating anymore. Like that is not healthy. And I don't want people to do that. I do not encourage eating disorder. I actually encourage healthy eating habits and the sanctity and gratitude feelings around having food and ingesting physical food into your body. And that's everything about food. The process of shopping for it or growing it or procuring it, the process of preparing it, the process of ingesting it, the process of digesting it, the process of eliminating it, and even the process of cleaning up the dishes. But you guys know I'm not a huge fan of washing the dishes. So I do have now a small countertop dishwasher that I'm very happy to use because I couldn't just invite people over who enjoy doing the dishes to do the dishes for me at all times. But I joke about all those things. Like you have to celebrate the whole entire aspect. So try not to find it choreful. So like some people are like, oh, I have to go to the grocery store. It's so choreful. I'm like, no, hooray, we get to go to the grocery store. Let's see what nutrients we can buy. See what conversations with a tree we can buy at the grocery store today. And then when most people come home, then they're like, oh no, like now I have to clean up the kitchen, put the food away. I'm like, hooray! I get to put the food away and put all the light codes where they're supposed to go. And then when it's time to prepare the food, I'm excited to prepare it. And of course, I'm always hungry and I'm always excited to eat it. Just I just don't like doing the dishes. I have beautiful friends. They live in the Chicago area, and I sometimes I call them up and they're like, "Oh, we're having dinner." I'm like, "What are you having?" And they're like, "Well, we're making this beautiful type of Asian soup stew, and we got one of these wonderful heritage chickens. And here's what they do: they talk to the chicken." They're like, oh, we bring it home, we wash it, we massage it, we rub it with spices, we tell it how much we're so happy to have it, and then we're so happy it's going to come inside and be a part of our bodies, and then we make this wonderful good stew out of it. Like that is the essence of, and I bring it up. That's the essence of what you want to do, and I bring it up because these are a beautiful family. And what they like to do is go shopping together, buy a beautiful chicken together, thank the chicken together in their kitchen, make the food together, eat the food together. It's a beautiful celebration of life. And that is as much a part of the light that is in the experience of preparing a meal as the light that is just the calories and the nutrients that are in the food. So the light that's in your food is also your feelings about food. And I don't want you to have eating disorders or disordered eating, because that is essentially when you curse your food. And a lot of people do this through the sense of wanting to be healthier. Maybe they say like carbs are bad and I'm not going to eat any carbs. And they look at carbs and they're like, no, that's not good. That's bad food. I can't eat that. And I'm like, no, carbs aren't bad for you. Even though you guys know I've done low carb for many years in my life. But you know what? Like when you're an athlete and you're going to dance the flying rainbow lasagna, you need some energy. If you're going to walk on the treadmill for 6 hours, like you're going to need to eat some carbs. And you celebrate like, hooray, I get to eat some carbs. And my body loves this because I'm going to use it to do stuff. Or what if you're lifting weights? And you're like, going to build muscles. And then your muscles are like, I'm so hungry. I want protein. And your muscles, you eat chicken or whatever. And then your muscles are like, I'm so happy that you ate that chicken. Like you can't curse a food. Like my problem with veganism and other forms of extremely limited and orthodox eating is that it makes very, very rigid parameters of what you're allowed to eat, what you're not allowed to eat, that aren't always related to what are your nutritional needs and what are your activities. And I think that it's important to be able to recognize your body's going to want different things at different levels of your ascension. You have to recognize and honor that. You have to also honor what food is available, what food is unpolluted, and go with the most available, affordable, and unpolluted foods that are available in your community. Because it's also very inappropriate to say, well, everybody should only eat whatever, like name a tropical fruit, like dragon fruit or something like that. As we don't grow that where I live. Like, what if I live in Sweden and I'm like, we don't have that in my neighborhood. What should I eat? And they're like, that's it. Move to Ecuador. I'm like, that is not possible for everyone. You have to find what is available, affordable, and is in your community. And that is also part of light. So you have a customized diet of physical substances that you're eating. You also have a customized diet of concepts that are fed to you by your solar parent, your light parent, your coherent family of light, that brings you on the journey of being able to, at a certain point, recognize, well, wait a minute, the singularity that's in me is the singularity that's in the sun, and I actually contain a sun inside of myself. And you start to have these inner realizations about how you are light and how you generate light. And then you're like, well, technically, I don't even actually need the intermediary of a tree to be able to make a fruit or a chicken to eat something, and then I eat the chicken. I can just eat this directly. So big stuff that I'm just gonna wrap up again. Don't simply stop eating. That is called starvation. And you also don't say, I'm not going to eat this, I'm not going to eat this, I'm not going to eat this. I'm just going to eat lentils or, whatever, rice and lentils. And that's what I'm going to survive upon. And that is how I will ascend. No, because sometimes your ascension diet might include eating a hamburger. I also knew this guy years ago. I hope he's well. That was a fruitarian, and he mostly drank fruit juice and ate fruits. And he shared with me one time, but this is not like, private, so it's okay if I share this. And this is anonymous also. But he said that he had a bad dream. It was the worst dream he ever had. He had been, vegan, fruitarian for years. He had a dream that he had a hamburger in his mouth, like he had just taken a bite, and that he had this like inner realization that it was the moment of ascension and that he couldn't ascend because he had hamburger in his mouth. And I don't want you to be like that. Again, I hope that this person, I hope he is well. But you can ascend even if you eat a hamburger. Even if you're like, I ate a hamburger, I just ate a hamburger. And then it's like, boom, the light switch goes on, time to ascend. You think your tummy is going to be like, well, that's it. You're staying behind, you're going to be left behind. And everyone's going to be up in heaven looking down at you and be like, oh, that poor guy, he almost ascended, but he ate a hamburger and now he's stuck, left behind. And he's like, no, another incarnational cycle. Okay, I'm being very silly and clearly, my mind is tired, but you understand it doesn't work that way. You will not be thrown off of the ascension bus because you ate a hamburger, even if you were a lifelong vegan, or even if you didn't eat this, or you didn't eat that, or any of those things. But I will tell you, so it's not meat inherently, but I will tell you that there's a lot of impure or polluted meat in our world, things that have additives and the animals haven't been treated well. And then also some of these animals are having some of these types of things that go inside of them more recently that create this type of stuff in the animals. And I am definitely not consenting to that. So it's getting harder and harder to find animals that don't have poor quality flesh. But everything that you eat, you want it to be the most pure and the most pristine and the most unpolluted. And also the way that I eat myself is mostly unprocessed foods that I purchase ingredients and then prepare myself. So I would encourage you to do something similar, just because most of the foods that are available that are either prepared or served in restaurants are low quality foods. My shoulders go down because mostly they only want to commodify their foods and they don't really care about it. And there's very, very few places that I've met that I've eaten where it was all high quality ingredients. One of them was if you're ever in the area, even though I think that the restaurant might be on pause right now, but the place that was the cafe in Arizona, it was quite an amazing place. That everything there was super high quality. So the same restaurateur owns the place in Sedona. Go to the Chocolate Tree in Sedona if you're ever in Arizona. And everything that I ate there was like the most amazing. Basically the value system of that cafe owner. So the first one was the Giving Tree Cafe, but I think that it's paused for right now. But the Chocolate Tree Cafe is part of the same family, and all of their ingredients there are the best ingredients. Everything there is mindful. Everything there is properly created. It's the way our food is supposed to actually be. And you can eat anything off of the menu and it will all taste amazing and also be very just supportive of your body processes. So, okay, all right, sorry, I'm getting now finally to your messages. I had them all off to the side. I didn't read them. Okay, so yes, celebrate your food. But there's not that many places where you can get commercially available, really, really good food. Okay, Christopher, thank you for being here. Says, after my sun-gazing session this morning, this question came to me. I'm curious if government is augmenting into a common sense agency or something else. Okay, this is a great question. It's actually something I could talk about a lot. There is a tsunami of light that is coming into our world right now. And that is light, information, intelligence, divine guidance. Yes, what you would call common sense. A sensible, rational way of doing things that is the antithesis pretty much of the psychopathological and very self-destructive and anti-life structures that we've had for a long amount of time. So I would say government is not innately changing who or what it is on a deep inner level. It is still a self-imposed intermediary between you as the individual experiencer and the divine consciousness that emanated you into reality. So we, of course, want to have self-governance as the goal for what we want to do. Total self-responsibility, total self-governance, and also recognize that you're in a transitionary time, just like you want to, we all want to transition to be fully light eaters, but we're eating food for right now. So we celebrate that we have food as an intermediary to the world of pure light. We can celebrate having a sensible government infrastructure during this time of transition. And that means that whoever are the individuals that occupy or work for or work through the government should be, not satanic. They should be divinely connected, people of good integrity who are doing the correct things with their funding and creating infrastructure and projects that are positive and life affirming for their communities. That is what government would be. And of course, most nation states and most federal governments are completely antithetical to that description. And most of them have been hijacked and inhabited by these very, I use the word evil, like very profoundly distorted and corrupt low levels of consciousness. And so I would like to just remove the entire government infrastructure. I know a lot of people would freak out. So we are in a transitionary stage. So, Christopher, when you are checking out the things that are happening in reality, and especially in the United States, there is a very good reform movement that I think is a direct result of simply more light coming into our world. And more light also means more scrutiny on the origins of corruption or misappropriation of funds, and then a proper disbursement of money and energy to where it actually needs to go. So maybe that's what you could say is what you're perceiving. The government is starting to work more in alignment with the way it's getting healthier, the way it's supposed to work. That at a certain point, you will not need government, you will not want government, and you will consider that to be definitely tricycle wheels on the bicycle that you're trying to ride in the Tour de France. You're gonna be like, government, like, don't tell me what to do. I'm busy trying to do my thing. But for right now, people might need those tricycles. But what I appreciate very much about your question and your sharing is that you did your sun gazing this morning. You got your particular caloric intake from the sun, and it gave you your assignment of like what you're thinking about and what direction you're sending your mind. Thank you for doing that, and you're doing exactly the right thing. And Christopher also goes on to say, "Slam dunk, you're funny. I love all your basketball references over the past weeks. Thank you very much." He says, "Oh, I'm a former college basketball referee for 26 years. In this class, I'm learning and practicing being a cosmic referee for the new monetary system of pure math coming soon." So beautiful. So thank you. I feel also like thank you for that encouragement because I know nothing about earth sports. I feel like my sports references are possibly a little cringeworthy because I don't really know what I'm talking about. But there's that one beautiful iconic image. I think it's of Michael Jordan, and because I knew he was a famous slam dunker, and he's kind of like literally going through the air. He's like leaping up, and he's got the basketball and goes up, 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 and then kapow, slam dunk. It's that feeling. And it's also that feeling of like when he's in the air and he does this thing, that is like this essence of liberation and this feeling of how your spirit actually flows. So I hope I hope that that's inspiring. And then the other aspect of basketball is like when you are trying to make your way to the basket and you have to do your maneuvering around all of the other people who are obstacles that are a part of the opposing team. A lot of that is super fast calculation that is beyond the athlete's cognitive ability, but it is in the level of pure flow state, nonverbal realization, and is really a state of supra consciousness and highest dimensional thinking. So any athlete that's really at these extreme levels of ability and capability, they're all tapping into this true state of nonverbal mind to be able to do these incredible complexities with the body. So that's including like the people who are trying to navigate around obstacles, but also like any gymnast who is doing these amazing twists and twirls in the air and then landing on their feet. And also tennis players who are having to calculate like where the ball is going to be and where they need to place themselves on the court. It's a joy. When you're doing it correctly, having a body is a complete joy. And being able to use your calculative presence of your muscle fibers to do something correctly, and being in the flow of time in that way is a total triumph. And I feel it at times in my own life because I'm a dancer, I'm a type of athlete, and I can feel it when I'm in the groove of time and I'm moving my body in exactly the right way, and I'm calculating everything with the larger calculative presence in exactly the right way, feels very, very exciting to me. So, what you mentioned at the end, new monetary system and pure math and things like that. You guys, I did do a cool video that was yesterday. That was from some of my sungazing in the morning that I simply felt compelled to talk about and to share. And I would say also that as there is more light reaching this world, more groceries are flowing in, the government structures are changing, but really our government structures are inherently intertwined with our larger monetary and economic structures. And all of that also really, really needs to change. And our view of money and our view of food are really intertwined. That when you look at human development, cultural development, and what people call civilization, these things really developed in parallel. That people had, like, I've got extra barley, but it's going to rot if I don't eat it myself. And how can I make a symbolic version of this barley so I can trade it with someone else without having to carry my giant silo to the market? Like, all of these things started out as representations of extra food that people had, and then turned into things that were simply symbolic and became forms of unhealthy mania. And so, as we are healing our relationship to food and to light and to getting cosmic groceries, we're also healing us as individuals and as society collective, our relationship to money and to resources. And then we have to ask these bigger questions of who should get resources and how much and under what circumstances, and who needs to direct those resources. And that's where it kind of meshes in with government and the sense of taxes and disbursements and funding. So you're really, all the comments that you made are beautiful, and you're really collectively witnessing a big change in the innate nature of appetites, resources, and materialism in the world. I find it hugely fantastic and gratifying and wonderful because you don't want the status quo, but just, I got to tell you guys, just hang on for a wild ride because this is not business as usual. This year and this time in our world is a time of profound transformation. And so you just have to recognize, like, you will see infrastructures being completely demolished, and then you will also see new things being constructed. So you have to be flexible and be philosophical about seeing these changes. Tom wants to know about what melatonin. Oh, I really need to drink. Hold on a second. Hydrate. What melatonin patches do I use? I cannot effectively share it here on YouTube because I noticed that YouTube gives me a problem when I share certain links or whatever. But anybody who's interested, because you're all students in the class or whatever, just email me and I'll send out the link to you, okay? Because I get it from this weird company, but I've been getting it from there for like 2 years. And I think it's a great product and it works well for me. And I have only had, positive experiences with it. So yeah, if you are interested in accessing that, just email me with your interest and I'll send you the link. Pedro says, and thank you for your question, Tom. Thank you very much. And if you want to know where do I get the powdered melatonin, that one's easy for me to tell you, bulksupplements.com. And that's like an easy to access, reputable place. And you just get the white powder, and then you can either mix it in with like cacao butter or whatever is your moisturizer and just rub it into your skin. So yeah, I'm happy to teach you all about that. Pedro said, thank you for your question. Pedro says, in the summer, I turn bicolor. Okay, my arms from shoulder to the elbow are light brown, and the rest is very dark brown loaded with melanin. Very common in drivers, especially in the left arm window side. We return to normal during winter. Absolutely. I totally understand. You have the driver's tan. So I would say it's not exactly the same, but I definitely have wild discrepancies on my body of like the parts of my bodies that are exposed to the sun all the time versus the parts of my bodies, like, whatever, my midsection that doesn't get in the sun very much. So wildly, especially like on my feet, you can see it. Like I have these, white lines across my sandals. So I think we can all relate. That's too funny. Pedro says, I must be getting better with Merkabah's. Last summer, the sun didn't feel so harsh and hot, at least while temperatures were below 110 F. And so thank you for that, Pedro. And I think you're probably someplace much closer to the equator than even me. And I'm in Southern California. So I think here's the deal with the sun. For many years, I felt like I couldn't even be out in the sun. This is like since like 2019 or so. The sun simulator and also all of the frequencies and all of the metallic sense of what was in the sky. It felt like very glaring, very hot, very frying on me. So not only would I limit my exposure during the middle of the day, but when I would go out there, sometimes I really felt like the sun was almost an assault and not something comfortable. It was very harsh. That's why, so that was a 2019 or so. I wrote the album that's called Under a Gentle Sun, because I always like to sing into being or bring into being through music the things that I want. I want a return of the gentle sun, not this harsh, white, fake thing that's out there. In more recent years, I found that my internal state was directly connected to how I felt about the sun, like whether it felt harsh or whether it felt gentle. So that told me it wasn't just something external, like in the atmosphere of the earth. It was also about my body processes and what I was experiencing. And I think I told you guys also about like my IBA paper. That's so you see, I work with my crystals. Oh, I have to go in 5 minutes. I have to go actually sooner. I got to do session for someone. But the IBA paper that I was sun gazing through this, and it helped me to sun gaze again without inhibitions as I used to do like 10 years ago. So there's something also about whatever is the stuff inside of me or inside of the body that was preventing me from connecting to the sun effectively. So detoxing and inner clearings have helped me to connect with the sun much more effectively. So the inside reflects the outside. Clearing out yourself definitely helps to make it easier to connect to the true sun. My voice is tired, guys. I gotta go. Oh, this is beautiful. I'll read this last comment. Joyce, I love you. She says, you are a valuable treasure, Professor. Thank you. I love you. And Miss Chicky too. Thank you so much, Joyce. Beautiful comment. Totally energizes me. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a wonderful student. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much for your love. Chiqui's back in bed already. Thank you for your love and your care for Chiki and for understanding when I have to take a little break to take care of her. Okay, like I said, just because I have an appointment coming up soon, I have to close things off for right now. But profound thank you, Lucy. Great to see you. Profound gratitude to everyone who comes to class. Thank you so much for those who are able to be here during the live lecture and for everyone who catches the archive afterwards. And I've apologies, I didn't send out the Zoom link last night. I always do these things late at night. It's either me making a glitch in my brain or blame technology, because I know I sent out that Zoom link, but apologies that didn't get to you so correctly. So I'm happy that it got to you for it to be able to come to class here today. And thank you to everyone who catches the archive. And just a brief reminder, if you're interested in the retreat, please do reach out so you can be a part of it. Okay, thank you so much, everyone.